Hey everybody, I'm just getting the live stream going here. Okay, just a second. I'm just trying to put it up so I can share it and then opening it up so I can see everything. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to move closer to the mic in just a second. But I moved some stuff around in here, so let me know if you guys can hear me okay. There's a lot of things to talk about tonight. We got a lot of stuff. I'm sorry I didn't post a video today. I was actually at a funeral over on the other side of the state. So one of my wife's relatives passed away, so we actually went and drove over to the other side of the state for the funeral. So I was actually going to do a whole video today on the Grand Cherokee for 2026. However, I just didn't have time. We left at like 7:30 this morning, and then we didn't get back till about 6. So let's see here. And then I had to take the kids to youth group and everything else. So hold on just a second. I'm sorry. It's taking a while, but give me just a second here. I want to make sure everything is running good. So give me just a second. Anyways, yeah, if you can hear me good, let me know in the chat. And hold on just a second. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing good tonight. So anyways, yeah, I was going to do a whole video on the 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee. And like I said, I had to go to a funeral today, so I was there all day long, spending time with the extended family and whatnot. So unfortunately, I just didn't have a chance to. I ended up staying up all night last night getting the stuff done for Mopar Insiders for today. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about, obviously, is all these new spy photos that we've been getting of all these new Jeep products. So over the past week, we've been flooded with new, actually quite revealing images of some new Jeep products. You might have seen yesterday I did one on the 2026 Jeep Cherokee, not the Grand Cherokee, but the Cherokee. We got our best look at that so far. And then a couple days ago, I did the 2026 Jeep Compass, which is going to make its debut. Live streamers are a lot of work. Sorry. Oh, thank you, man. But nonetheless, we've gotten tons and tons of photos of these new Jeeps. So I want to go a little bit over, what we can expect. Some of it's going to be repetitive from the videos before, but I want to talk in depth about the Grand Cherokee especially, because there's been a lot of questions about it. I'm going to talk about what we know, what we don't know, and there's actually been some really interesting news that broke just the other day about it. So anyways, let's look at these new photos. These are just one model. I actually have some photos of the L that will be posted on, what's today, Wednesday, probably Friday. So we got some new pictures of the L, but you can see that the front end has quite a different look compared to the 2025 models. Now, the funny thing about these models was originally the 2025 model year was supposed to be the big switchover. However, these vehicles, just like all the other new Stellantis products, are getting an all-new electrical architecture. And what we've heard from our sources and what we've seen even on Reddit from employees is that basically this new electrical architecture is just giving them problems constantly. And the big difference about the new Atlantis electrical architecture is the fact that you're supposed to be able to do major over-the-air updates. However, not everything's going according to plan. We've seen huge delays, and then obviously we've seen a lot of problems with, the Jeep Wagoneer S. We've seen them with the Charger Daytona. So, and then we even seen a really bad launch of the 2025 Ram 1500. You might remember that whole debacle going back to last June. That was a nightmare for Shap. So, anyways, this whole thing, they're having a lot of issues with it. It's not like, that can't be solved, But for some reason, this, like I said before, Carlos Tavares came in last March and fired most of their electrical engineers and software engineers when they had some of the biggest, basically launches that the company was ever to expect. I mean, again, your most, sold vehicle for the entire company, the 2025 Ram 1500, bad launch there because of electrical architecture issues. Your Wagoneer S, your first all-electric Jeep product that's, sold here in North America, bad launch because of that. Dodge Charger Daytona, probably the most controversial yet probably one of the most important cars for Dodge to launch and be right on, had problems with that. So there's been a lot of issues with this electrical architecture, and we've seen, delays and other things like, Tim Kuniskis just said, hey, we're going to move the Ram Charger up forward, in front of the Rev. But now we've seen it been pushed back to the late second half of 2025 for its actual, launch, because they want to make sure things are done right. We've seen that the Recon has been pushed back a little bit. They're building them down in Mexico. We've seen the actual production spec ones running around the Auburn Hills campus. However, they're pushing them back a little bit because they want to make sure that everything is right. But the big issue, again, is electrical stuff. This vehicle has already become controversial. And the reason why is because, Stellantis hasn't announced it yet, but it's pretty well known, especially when we talked about it, was these won't have the Pentastar V6 under the hood anymore. You remember they got rid of the Hemis? For the L model was the last one to have a Hemi. They got rid of that 2 years ago. And now that's been Pentastar power, except for if you get the 4xe, obviously. But what they're going to do for 2026 is they're going to get rid of the Pentastar, and they're going to go to 4 cylinders, turbo 4 cylinders. They're going to have the next generation of 2-liter turbo Hurricane engines. Basically, that engine's called, the Hurricane 4, and it's also called, if you know it internally, it's called the GME T4. So it means Global Medium Engine Turbocharged 4-cylinder. So these are the new evolution of them called the EVOs. And then this one, what we were told from our sources is that it's going to have a standard output one across the lineup. There'll be a higher output model eventually, but the standard output was what was supposed to be coming. It was supposed to have roughly around the same kind of horsepower that the Pentastar had in like the Ram 1500. So we were talking about 300 horsepower. And it was supposed to give the kind of performance that we would expect like vehicles like the Explorer ST to have. So while it wouldn't be a huge gain for those who like to tow, the Durango's obviously staying around with Hemi power. We've been seeing and hearing rumors that, the Hemi could come back in the Grand Cherokee, but nothing, like no internal documents or anything that we've seen so far has basically said that, other than something about an SRT variant. And, there's a lot of questions about that. We've seen spy photos of one with dual exhaust. So, it's quite possible that one could come back. But we've seen one document saying that the WL will probably get some kind of SRT model. As for the 5.7, we don't know. There hasn't been any confirmation, no hints whatsoever. It would be stupid if they didn't. A lot of people want the Hemi back in the Grand Cherokee, especially the L, because a lot of people buy that third row vehicle just like the Durango because of its towing capability. You look at the 2021 models with the 5.7 and the Grand Cherokee L, could tow 7,200 pounds. So, if you have a small boat, a small camper and stuff, it was a great powertrain to have in that vehicle. However, now with Pentastar power, you're losing it down to about 5,000 pounds, maybe 6,000 pounds. And, you don't have the capability to tow like you did before. So you have to kind of go back to a Durango. So if you really want that Jeep with, towing capability, they don't offer it right now. So, but anyways, with this new Evo engine, we were supposed to hear some impressive numbers from it, but again, they're having issues with the launch. Again, this was supposed to be a 2025 model. We were supposed to have these a long time ago on the lots, but they actually extended the 2025 model or the 2024 model into 2025. And then the funny part is now we got official word that they are pushing, basically they're going to shut down the Detroit Assembly Complex. They're going to shut down Jefferson this coming week. We got an actual document. I got this document from one of the employees the other day. And you can kind of see here, it says important notice of layoff. There will be no scheduled production at the Detroit Assembly Complex Jefferson, which is also known as Jefferson North, from the 28th to May 4th. These dates are subject to change based on operational needs and demand. So apparently they're saying, Stellantis is saying that this is due to, changes coming up for the 2026 model year. So they really haven't said anything other than that in a statement. They just said, hey, that it's going to be changed for the 2026 model year. But we know the Durango is going to be extended out possibly multiple years, probably up until at least 2028. It was supposed to be 2026. Was it supposed to be its last year? Now we're hearing that model will be extended until 2028, and they're looking at an additional year into 2029. So the WD Durango will be out for a long time. The WL is supposed to be replaced, they said 2028. We're supposed to be seeing new models in 2027 as 2028 models, but we don't know. Everything is changing. Like I've said this 1,000 times. Everything is changing at the company so rapidly. Like they're making all these rapid decisions. It's kind of hard to follow because one week you're hearing something and then the next week you're not. And then even rumors right now, we're hearing that they're having so many problems with the 2026 models that they were talking about maybe even extending Pentastar engines. But what we know for sure is that Jeep came out and said, hey, instead of just launching the 2026 model, we're extending 2025 even longer. So there's going to be an additional few months of 2025 production just so they can get past the 2026, transition. So we'll see. But this is a brand new, these are some new shots from my buddy Glenn Polina. And this is a Summit model. You can tell because of the wheels on here, but it's a high altitude model. So it's a top of the line Grand Cherokee. You can see that the really interesting thing is they have the front camouflaged up. If you look close, we'll see some other shots here in a second, but if you look close at the front end, you'll notice that it's basically the Jeep Grand Cherokee L front end with a few subtle changes. The very interesting thing is they've kept the Grand Cherokee L and the two-row Grand Cherokee, the WL74 and WL75 with different front ends for North America. Now, if you look at the export models for the two-row, it's actually got the Grand Cherokee L front end. So that's kind of interesting that now they're adapting it for both. If we look at the actual grille design, we're seeing that Jeep is really going in really heavy detail, kind of like what they did with the new Wrangler with this new 7-slot grille design. So you can kind of see it's kind of highlighted now, where it's got indentions instead of just being the slots with a chrome backing. It's actually got tooling around it. It's got some indentions in it that makes it more three-dimensional. So that's really the big changes for 2026 on the front end. The headlights appear to be the same. There's nothing really changed there. So it does look like a Grand Cherokee L front end. You can kind of see down here, it's got the same kind of cutouts that the Grand Cherokee L has. And even the grille design the pattern's a little different, but it looks like the same front bumper design is all there. So not a huge drastic change, which is expected for a mid-cycle refresh, but the real big changes are coming to the interior. So we showed you some images before. I think I got a couple of them on here. So this was a couple, let me open this up real quick. These were shots from a couple months ago. This showed us some really interesting details. The first thing you're going to notice is it's got an all-new Uconnect 5 system. Excuse me. An all-new Uconnect 5 system. And it kind of mimics the Wagoneer S and the bigger Wagoneers. So now it's got haptic buttons on the side. You can see it clearly right here and down the sides. It's got the turning knobs on it. And then right above it, the actual piano black push buttons are still there. The actual switches are on top. But now the screen doesn't line up with this pattern. So now it's not all black. So it's got different, it's got the same kind of situation of buttons, but this piece is different. So everything else kind of looks the same. Steering wheel obviously looks the same. We look at the door switches and stuff, that kind of all looks the same, but the center stack is massively different. So you can tell because their big focus is the center stack, because usually on prototypes, if there's major changes, they'll put full camouflage across the dash. This one just has one to hold, like basically fold over the center stack. But in these latest spy images, we get some really interesting photos of this. This, excuse me, this is another view of a screen, and it appears to be bigger. So it looks like it might be, you know, a little bit bigger than the screen that we've seen. So this one looks to be the 12.3 inch screen that we have in the Wagoneer S. However, there's haptic buttons down below now. You can kind of see this, I don't know if my head's cutting it off or not, but you can kind of see these haptic buttons that we've been seeing them switch over to, which I think are terrible. I hate haptic buttons. I absolutely hate them. But you can kind of see faintly that they're lit up behind. But you can kind of look at the screen and notice that this screen is very small. It kind of looks like a 12.3 inch Uconnect screen. If we go to the other picture here, the screen looks massively bigger. So you can kind of see that it could be the same. It's just the way that the pictures like shot, it does look like it's got a bigger screen. But again, you can see the haptic buttons on the side of this, the actual Uconnect system, and you can see that haptic bar down below underneath the screen as well. So yes, all the new Stellantis vehicles are getting haptic buttons. We've seen it in the Dodge Charger Daytona. We've seen it in the Wagoneer S, and we're going to be seeing it in a lot of vehicles. So as we go through these spy images, you're going to see a lot more of these haptic buttons. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan, but overall, the vehicle looks pretty much the same on the exterior. It's just, it looks like it's getting the Grand Cherokee L front end with some revisions, a new grille design, like an actual new pattern. Headlights appear to be the same again, and they covered up the DRLs, but again, it looks to be the same. I don't know if they're covering it up because they used to have just, if you look at the Grand Cherokees now, if you get the lower level one, you get amber colored DRLs. If you step up to like an Overland or a Summit, they have white DRLs. So they could be changing the colors on them a little bit. I don't know. We really don't know. And then, let's see here. This is a couple of shots from before. You can see that this Grand Cherokee L, excuse me, this Grand Cherokee L is like, you know, full heavy vinyl camouflage over the front end. So we're getting a little bit more detail now, but this is basically a limited model, and this is at the L. But we got more, like some new shots with the grille exposed, and it's pretty much the same thing. So don't expect a drastic change. Again, here's the interior. Don't expect a drastic change from 2025 to 2026. There's going to be subtle revisions to the front fascia and the rear fascia, but nothing too drastic. So if you really like the 5th generation WL Grand Cherokee, you should like the update because it's going to be very mild. We also went through and looked at this the other day. You can probably watch the huge video. I won't go too in depth on this one, but this is the new 2026 Jeep Cherokee KM. So this will slot below the Grand Cherokee. This is a D segment where the Grand Cherokee is an E segment SUV. And it's funny because I was talking on the video about, you know, we know this is a Latitude model because of the black trim down below. And the very interesting part was I was behind a white, and you can see that this one's white. I was behind like a white 2023 or 2022 Cherokee KL, and the Latitude model actually had that same plastic look to it. This vehicle is very interesting because the more that it reveals what it looks like, it's a lot different than what people thought. Everybody thought it was just going to be like a more boxy version of the Wagoneer S. It was going to share the same fascia and stuff like that. Totally different. Totally different. If we look at the front end, obviously because it's not an electric vehicle, this is going to be strictly a hybrid vehicle. It's going to have a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine with a 3-speed, what we're hearing is a 3-speed hybrid transmission and a small battery pack on board. So this will not be a plug-in. This will be Jeep's first hybrid strictly vehicle. And basically it will just operate at like certain speeds as long as it gets a charge from regenerative braking or whatever the transmission can, you know, force back into the battery pack to basically go a certain distance on EV power. So you won't have to plug this thing in. It's one of the things that people have been asking for a lot. We've seen a huge boost in EV sales last month. I mean, a massive boost in EV sales. And then we've seen, obviously, demand for hybrids is way, way up. So Jeep is coming to the market with this D segment vehicle, which is going to be just for the US and Canada from what we hear. And it's going to be hybrid only. So standard 4x4, hybrid only powertrain. And again, being a hybrid, it's got an internal combustion engine in it. It's got a totally different face than the Wagoneer S. So you can see it's got like an upright grille, kind of looks like a WL a little bit, with a little bit of slant there, and it goes down. And of course, on the bottom, it's got a massive grille to pull in even more cooling, and it's got the adaptive cruise control radar system down below. If we look close through the headlamps, we can kind of see there's DRLs right here. They're kind of coming down a little bit. And it's funny because when I was looking at the spy images, I was like, what does it look? It looks like they're halogen lights, but I think it's just because of the dot matrix vinyl camouflage tape that they put on. It kind of gives it a yellow hue, because everything that Jeep's been doing lately has LED headlamps, and it kind of threw me off for a second. Like, they're supposed to be bright white, but I think it's just the how the lighting's hitting the camouflage with the lights underneath it. But we're pretty sure that it's going to be LEDs. But we see the fog lights for the first time down here. These wheels are really weird. These are they're 5 spokes, but they're attached in the center, and they kind of look like spider webs. It's a weird design. I don't know if I like it, or I don't know if I really hate it. But again, the vehicle's getting boxier than the outgoing. Or when I say outgoing, I keep saying outgoing in all my videos about the KL. It's been discontinued since early, like February of 2023. But when I say outgoing, I mean the KL. But this thing's a lot boxier than what that model was. It's longer too. We're hearing that this model will be slightly bigger than the KL because of what really did the KL in was when they introduced the 2017 Jeep Compass, the MP that we have currently. The problem was, yeah, the Compass is bigger, like physically on the outside, but usable space inside. The Compass and the Cherokee were pretty identical. So a lot of people were looking at the Cherokee and they're like, well, I can go to a Jeep Compass and it has about the same amount of room and leg space for cheaper. So the Compass actually kind of cannibalized it, even though that's a C segment vehicle, a compact vehicle. It was packaged just right where it was actually cannibalizing the sales of the midsize. So this vehicle is going to be a little bit bigger to kind of offset it from the Compass, the next generation Compass, and the Grand Cherokee. But the very interesting thing is in these new spy photos is that we're seeing the side profile for the first time with the windows super clear. So a lot of people thought this was going to be a third row vehicle, and you can kind of see in these photos. Let me see if I can blow them up here real quick. I put them down here. Let me see. I want to blow them up so you guys can see them. Let's see. So if you look here in this photo, you can see that the back doors open up right here. You can see where my thing is, right here. So that doesn't leave much room for a third row. We had been hearing from way before this thing was even talked about that they were going to bring back the Cherokee name, and it was going to be a 3-row, like D segment vehicle, kind of like how the Commander is down in Brazil. But it doesn't look like this will have a third row. If it does, I'll be very surprised because it'll probably be kind of unusable. But you can see that it's clearly gets rid of that radical wing that the Wagoneer has, the Wagoneer S, and then goes to the back to the traditional Jeep looks. But gone is that shark fin design that we've been seeing on all the Jeeps. Instead, this thing has a very close silhouette to the Grand Cherokee L. So with that back window design and that shape, you can see how it comes down and it has that kink in it. It looks just like this. Let me see if I can pull that up right here. So you can guys kind of see how the Grand Cherokee L comes up, that body line that goes down the vehicle. Even the back window, you can kind of see how it kinks down. And then this is the shark fin design I'm talking about. There's always a shark fin design on all the vehicles since even the Renegade. There's been this shark fin. I don't know why they keep doing it, but it kind of ties them all together, I guess. But you can see like in the indentation in the back window and even how the doors lined up, it's almost identical to this. So what we're getting for a Cherokee is more of an evolution of a vehicle. It's boxier, a little bit longer, because the old Cherokee, we had a really small window in the back. So we're probably getting about another 1.5 feet of length in this vehicle. But the very interesting thing is, instead of being, kind of radical designed, it's actually going to be basically a smaller version of the Grand Cherokee L. And then another cool thing about the design is we actually get to see, again, some other perspectives of it. I can tell you, I actually shot some spy images of the back with the, I'll have to post them. I got them. They're not really good shots. They're shot from way, way far away. But there was one sticking through a fence. And I got to see some of the taillights sticking out. And it looks very, very similar to the 2023 KL tail lamp. So everybody thought this was going to have the same kind of like tail lamp and everything that the Wagoneer S has. Totally different. You can kind of see that this will have like the traditional like boxy look above the license plate that will say Jeep on it in the middle. And then here the tail lamps come out and around, but they're very big. They don't go all the way across. You can kind of see with the imprints here on the camouflage. You can see right here that this comes down just like the Grand Cherokee and is squared off. Again, you can see right down here, it's got an exhaust tip, so we know it's a hybrid for sure, but it's got that big black chunky plastic bumpers on it. That's how we know it's a Latitude model. If you're in Canada, it's actually called the North. And then it'll probably have the sensors on certain models, upscale models, to open up the hands-free tailgate. But we see here's the handle down here that's covered in camouflage, but you can see just how big those tail lamps are. And they are going to be totally different than the Wagoneer S. So this vehicle is a lot different than the Wagoneer S. A lot of people thought, oh yeah, like I said, it's a boxier version of the Wagoneer S. It's not. I think, like, again, from what I can tell from these spy photos, and I've been looking at these a lot, and I've been shooting some of these vehicles out testing. Glenn shot these ones, my buddy Glenn Polina. But the thing is these images are really telling us a lot more than what I've even been able to see. But the very interesting thing is this is going to be not a revolutionary design. It's going to be more evolutionary. So we're going to see basically a small scale Grand Cherokee L. So, hold on here. Let me see. No thanks on the 4-cylinder Grand Cherokee, or Jeep Grand Cherokee. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that they don't want a turbocharged 4-cylinder in the Jeep Grand Cherokee. The shrinking of engines is stupid, especially with the Grand Cherokee. 2 liter is too small for an SUV that weighs over 5,000 pounds, even with a turbo. There's nothing wrong with the Pentastar. The Pentastar is actually a great engine. A lot of people complain that, they burn oil and they have some, like, ticking issues and stuff. I don't think they're that bad. I had a 2018 Dodge Durango GT, and that thing never had any problems. I got excellent fuel economy on it. Driving at 75 miles an hour, I was getting about 26, 27 miles a gallon with that thing. And in the city, I was getting about 21, so it's not bad. Now I have a Durango RT with a 5.7, and I'm lucky if I get anywhere like 13, 14 in the city, because, I live down off of Woodward Avenue, so I'm like, it's busy traffic all the time. Once I get in the highway, I get about 21, 22. So the Pentastar is a great engine, 300 horsepower. Well, actually in Durango form, it's, 292 horsepower, but if you get the GT, it's like 300. But it's still not a bad engine. It's not a bad engine at all. Thank you for calling Cherokee a midsize. I can't stand when people call a REV4 in a CRV segment a compact. Well, it is. It's a true midsize vehicle. It's a D segment vehicle. The Wagoneer S is a D segment vehicle. So is the new Recon. The Recon's actually, it's not that big. If you guys actually get a chance to see it in person, like I said, I've shot spy footage of it and stuff like that. I've seen it out on the roads testing. It looks bigger when you look at it online, and then when you see it in person, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that big. A Ford Explorer looks way bigger than a Recon. The only thing that's really different about the size of the Recon is it's a lot taller than this thing. So it's got a lot more ground clearance and stuff, and it's got like a lift on it a little bit. So, like, I would say the Recon kind of comes up to, like, I don't know, probably another 3-4 inches taller than the Cherokee, because it's a lot boxier. So I still say that Dodge needs to bring back a Duster or a Dart or neon. They definitely need an entry-level car, and that's for sure. Dodge definitely needs an entry-level car. And I would love to see like a turbocharged 4-cylinder. So anyways, so yeah, if you guys are like, you know, curious more about the Cherokee and my in-depth video, you guys can kind of go on there. I actually enlarged the photos, and again, you can kind of see the new interior. It's different than the Wagoneer S. A lot of people thought they were going to be sharing, you know, the dash and stuff. This dash is very similar to what we've seen on the Wagoneer S Trailhawk, which I was kind of showing people before, saying, hey, that's actually showing us the Cherokee. I have one more image of it, right? Let me see here. This one. We'll talk about the interior real quick, because we're talking about haptic buttons and stuff. You can see right here, it's got haptic buttons down here below. Instead of having them underneath the stereo like the Wagoneer S, they're down here. They're piano black, and you can see right down here. It's just one piano black piece, but it's a haptic button display. And then down here, the rotary shifter. This person who's driving this is actually who's basically they're a test driver. What Stellantis does is they hire a company. They used to be Roush, but now it's a different company. And what they do is they go out and basically pay these people like $15 an hour to go put tons of miles on these vehicles. So they drive around. Well, they stop and get something to eat because, you know, they put in a full 8-hour day. And then this lady had a Arby's cup, and it's blocking the rotary dial shifter down here. But we can see, you know, it's got the battery on-off switch, and then it's got the engine on-off switch in case something happens, so they can hit that, and basically it shuts everything down immediately so they can take and, you know, recognize any issues with the powertrain. But you can see, because this is a brand new, all new vehicle, you can see that the doors have camouflage draped down. We can see the stitching underneath. And then you can see, because like that Grand Cherokee is just the center stacks changed, they just have the center stack piece. This one here is fully covered. The interesting thing is, we know this is a Latitude model, but, you know, everything's been having those passenger screens. I know a lot of people hate those, you know, passenger screens, the 10.25-inch passenger screen. It doesn't look like this one has it, so it probably will have a passenger screen, probably on like, you know, well, from what we heard, they're going to launch with like 3 models. They're going to launch with a Sport. They're going to launch with a the Latitude, or known in Canada as the North. And then they're going to launch with a Limited model. So the Limited will probably have a passenger screen. I wouldn't put it past them. Then probably later we'll see some other models, you know, like obviously like maybe a Summit, like a really premium one. But then the interesting thing is what we've learned, and again, I can't confirm this 100%, but according to what my sources are saying, is there won't be a Trailhawk model at launch. So instead, they're going to wait probably 5-6 months, maybe in the next model year, and then roll out a Trailhawk model. So basically what we're getting is a lineup of street Jeeps right off the bat. So a lot of people are going to be raising questions about that. Grant and his Fire Chris Fuel movement on all my videos. I love it. Confused on why they are using a 2-liter Evo 4 on the Grand Cherokee L instead of the KM model, which is supposed to be sportier of the 2 options. I honestly, I don't know. The new 2-liter Evo 4 is supposed to have 300 horsepower. I think what they were doing is trying to look at a more emissions-friendly option for the Pentastar. Now that Trump has kind of rolled that stuff away, I'm sure that they're kind of like rethinking, because again, we've seen some images of, you know, possibly an SRT model, but there's been nothing confirmed for the Grand Cherokee just yet if the 5.7 is going back in it. I know I get tons of email from people, hey, is the 5.7 going back in it? Is the 5.7 going back in it? There's been no documentation. I've actually, some of the, there's some people that are supplier friends of ours. They had a meeting with Stellantis, and there's a couple vehicles that we haven't talked about yet that they're looking at bringing back, but there was nothing said about a Hemi Grand Cherokee just yet. Now, we did see that leaked document, basically that leaked online, saying that there was a WL, and it was had a code number next to it with SRT next to it, but that vehicle is even saying that it's going to be out for a couple years, so we'll see. Do you think the Dodge Hornet will be discontinued for the 2026 model year? No, I don't think it will be discontinued. The thing is with the Hornet, I think what it's probably going to do is push. I think with the tariffs, the thing with the tariffs is going to be very interesting. So First of all, we just seen the Italian Prime Minister come this past week and actually sit down with Donald Trump, and they get along really, really good. So I think that, they're going to work out something so we have more of a fair trade with, Italy. I don't think they're going to be one of the countries that we really have to, there's going to be a huge clash with. I think, countries like France and stuff, and probably Germany are going to be bigger clashes to do business with. But I think Italy will be pretty smooth. I know John Elkann, the Wall Street Journal said a few months ago that John Elkann had called Trump multiple times and talked to him. And he even called him, they said, what was it, about a month ago? Not even, just before the tariffs went into place. And, Trump basically told him, hey, I'm not going to help you guys out. You guys got a month of, getting your stuff together. I'm not going to put tariffs on your stuff. And then after that month, you guys are on your own. And Trump stuck to those actual words. The thing is, I don't think the Hornet will be gone. I still think it's way too overpriced. I would love to see them discontinue the all-wheel drive standard feature. Even put just a base 2-liter Hurricane 4 like what the Compass has in it with, 200 horsepower. Just as a base model. Not every Dodge has to be a performance vehicle. Dodge needs to go back to being a mainstream brand with performance options. That was the whole purpose of SRT, and I think Dodge just needs to go back. I would love to see if they built a front-wheel drive Dodge Hornet for $23,000 or just let's say $24,000, right? A base model stripped out Dodge Hornet for $24,000, $23,995. It would sell, no problem. The problem is this vehicle, because it comes from Italy and stuff, it's actually got a cheaper destination price than a Ram 1500, and it comes over on a ship and everything else. It makes no sense. So they need to cheapen that vehicle up. When I drove, Dodge sent me one back during Thanksgiving weekend, and I was really impressed with the powertrain. I'm not a fan of the vehicle. I do like the front end looks. I think Scott Kruger, a lot of people don't know this, but Scott Kruger was the head of the Dodge Europe design studio. He came back to North America. He was moved over there for a while, and he worked on, Alfa Romeo and Dodge. Scott is a very good designer. He was the one who designed the 5th gen Dodge Viper. Well, anyways, he designed the front end of the new Hornet. The thing is, it's not Dodge enough. You get inside, it's got all the same Alfa Romeo radio switches and crap that don't work. I mean, they're the most confusing switches. You have a rolling toggle switch that doesn't really do nothing. You can skip over radio stations real easy. It's it doesn't have the stereo buttons on the back of the wheel that we all are familiar with. It's not a Dodge. You get into it, you don't feel like you're in a Dodge. You feel like you're in an Alfa. If they were smart, if they were truly smart, they would push forward a revamped vehicle. Basically make a mini version, a 2-row version of a Durango. That's all they have to do. Make it sporty, give it a base powertrain, and make a performance model. Not everything has to have the top of the line, horsepower. I will say that the plug-in hybrid, which cracked me up because Dodge sent me the one vehicle, I didn't have a charger at my house, so I couldn't charge it. It came 0% charged, and I ended up not charging it at all. I just ran it as a hybrid, because if I wanted to charge the thing using a level 2 charger, because it doesn't do high speed charging or fast charging, it would have taken me 2 hours and 45 minutes to charge it to get 30 miles. And I was like, that is pointless. But overall, the 1.3 liter with the E rear axle, awesome powertrain. With 20-inch wheels, that Coney suspension hits all these potholes in Michigan, no problem. I've never drove a compact vehicle that had the handling characteristics of the Hornet. The Hornet was just simply amazing driving it. It's the experience of the vehicle that sucks. Not the driving experience. The actual vehicle, the ergonomics of the vehicle. I'm 6'1". I could not put my seat down far enough without hitting my head on the headliner. It's not built for Americans. I mean, I'm over 300 pounds. I'm a fat guy. Okay. But I'm 6'1" and I can fit into most cars, no problem. The problem is in that vehicle, my head was smashed in the headliner. You can go back and watch the video that I did on it on the channel here, and you'll notice that my head is like pushed up against the ceiling. It's just it was uncomfortable to drive. It's narrow. It's actually narrower than the Compass, because you got to remember Europeans are smaller people than Americans and Canadians. But overall, the powertrain was really good. The suspension was phenomenal. It just was it's just not built for Americans. It's not. That they need to like address that, make it a little wider like the Compass was, and build it with the Compass up in Brampton. Brampton needs more products. They only have the Compass coming. I don't understand why they can't build a new, North American built, Jeep, or not Jeep, but a Jeep Compass and a Dodge Hornet together. I don't understand that. But it's too alpha. That's my biggest problem with the Hornet. So, let's see here. The next generation Hornet will most likely be based on the Compass. Yeah, more than likely, Grant. Any spy shots or news on the upcoming compact midsize Ram? No, not yet. If they're doing anything with that truck, it will probably be at the proving grounds for a while. We probably won't see it on the roads, like publicly testing, probably until it's supposed to be due out in 2027. We probably won't see it until early next year, actually out testing on public roads. Honestly, that's just how they go. I mean, that's how they do it. So there's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. But the thing is we're hearing things like it's not even confirmed yet. They said they're going to build it at Belvedere. We're hearing things from the UAW that says that it might be moved. Belvedere might have other plans. They were supposed to talk this past week. I haven't heard anybody from who I've been talking to lately about what's going on. But there's possible word, because Gladiator sales have been so bad, that there was originally talk about moving this midsize truck to Toledo South and making that line a unibody line and moving the Gladiator to the Wrangler line. So I haven't heard anything official yet, but we'll see. Let's see here. But yeah, we won't see spy images of the truck for a while. If we do see like something, like if we do go out and catch something, if Glenn or Brian Williams or I go out and catch something, it will probably be a mule of something. It'll be something all cut up. Kind of like what we've seen for the Wagoneer. We've seen a Ram 1500 that was all cut up. We're going to probably see something like that. How long do you think it's going to take to get the software issues solved with the Charger and Wagoneer? Okay, so Rich, the very interesting thing about that is there's a guy that I've been talking to named Jordan Rose. He's an official certified Mopar technician. We actually featured a couple of his videos. He's on YouTube. If you look up Mopar Tech Jordan, he's actually been doing really cool videos about breaking down all these issues with the Charger Daytona, and he's gonna be doing some with the Wagoneer S and stuff. Like tearing the dash apart to fix the haptic buttons. He talked about the hood latches being easily broke because people are slamming the hoods down on them, because there's a certain process of how you have to push the hoods down on them that a lot of people don't know. And I actually seen a Wagoneer S at the Detroit Auto Show, and I sent Jordan the video. I'm like, hey, this latch was broken too, because I couldn't even open the hood on it, and then when I did, I couldn't shut it. It's because people were slamming them tight, because the front is kind of a different thing. And people don't understand, well, they broke the latch on it. So anyways, he's been doing a lot of videos, and he was telling me that he was talking to some people within Stellantis, and it sounds like they are really close to a software fix. Really close to a software fix. I'm sure he'll be addressing it. I'm surprised he's not in the chat. He was in the chat on my live stream the other night. But Jordan is one you can go and ask questions to. He is up to date on everything with these EVs. He does all the PDI for all their EVs, and he'll be doing PDI for like vehicles like this with like the hybrid systems and stuff. But he knows everything about the Charger Daytona. The Charger Daytona is not a bad car. It's just, it's got these electrical gremlins right now, like with software. It's all software BS. The car itself is actually pretty good. The thing is that Jordan says that, I mean, I believe him. He actually went out and bought one. He's got a white Scat Pack. So, I mean, he's the guy who tears them all apart. If he didn't think it was a good car, he wouldn't have bought one. Let's see here. Side impact airbags affect SUV. What segment is the Urus? Something of that style would be great for Dodge. The Urus is like an E segment vehicle. It's about the size of a Grand Cherokee, so it wouldn't be. It would be basically a competition for the Durango in size. Has Alfa got a new car coming? Alfa's got supposedly a lot of stuff coming. From what we've heard, there's going to be. Well, they're supposed to have the new Stelvio that was supposed to be launched here. The very interesting thing is what we were told from our sources was that the Stelvio Quadrifoglio was supposed to be the first all-new Alfa launched in 2025, late 2025. And however, that vehicle's been canceled. So if you read back on my Mopar Insider stuff, I wrote a whole article recently about it. They basically come out and said that because of the powertrain strategy changes, that people didn't really want an EV performance vehicle. More people wanted internal combustion. So they're going to go back to like probably, they hinted at it, but they didn't really say a yes. But they're basically their head of marketing said that they're going internal combustion for sure. It won't be, he said it won't be a 3-cylinder, it won't be a 4-cylinder, it won't be a 5-cylinder. So guaranteed it'll probably be a V6 twin turbo again. Now, because Ferrari's not going to do their engines, it's probably going to be the Maserati 3-liter Netturno V6. So that's the same engine that's in the MC20. And that thing cranks out a lot more horsepower than the 2.9. So we're probably going to see that kind of make it into the next generation Stelvio and or at least the Quadrifoglio and the Giulia. Now, if we talk about the Stelvio, we're probably going to see that in, I think, June or July. I can't remember. I think it's one of the two. I can't even remember like when Alfa has their birthday, but they got their 115th anniversary coming up. And we're probably going to see the Stelvio for the first time, the next generation one, the still a large one, that on that date. The interesting thing that we know about the Stelvio, it's going to look a lot different. It's going to be based on the Stella Large platform. It's going to be slightly bigger, just slightly. It's still going to be like a D segment SUV, but it's going to be a little bit bigger. We know that it's now going to have internal combustion power, hybrid power, and EV. And the very interesting thing was the Quadrifoglio model, from what we were told, was going to mirror the Charger Daytona SRT Banshee. So that was supposed to have an 800-volt system. We don't know, like there was rumors going around that it was going to be tri-motor. We never really got confirmation on that. But basically, it was supposed to even have the same new multi-speed eRupt transmission that the Charger Daytona Banshee has. So unfortunately, that vehicle's been canceled. But the Giulia, believe it or not, there's been rumors going around about that. Again, can't confirm or anything, but I wrote about it on Mopar Insiders because multiple Italian automotive magazines have been hearing that the next generation Giulia will not be just a sedan. It's going to follow in the footsteps of the Dodge Charger Daytona. It'll still be a D segment where the Charger's an E segment vehicle, but what we're hearing is it's going to be a hatch. So that vehicle will adopt a hatchback design just like the Charger. A lot of people like that kind of feature because it's, more utilitarian. You can kind of put more stuff in it. So, but that's the big rumor about the Giulia. We don't really know a whole lot about the Giulia just yet, but the big rumor is it's supposed to be a hatchback design. They have the Tonale. The Tonale got a minor update last year in Europe. A lot of people don't know that. It got a different, it's now, the one we got here has a normal shifter. The one over in Europe actually has a rotary dial shifter now. It has a couple of different interior changes that we didn't get here. Let's see what else. Okay, so they're looking at building a Montreal model. We heard that for sure. They're looking at building possibly a GTV. And we heard that we actually seen documents saying that they were going to build a North American exclusive E-segment SUV based on the Durango at Jefferson. I posted the document on Mopar Insiders. You can go back. Matter of fact, I'll show you it. Let me see. Alfa Romeo E-segment. So, this is a while ago. I think I wrote this like early last year. There was a document that was leaked on a European website. Hold on here. SUV. North America. So anyways, this was supposed to be a dedicated North America vehicle. They said they're going to sell 10,000 units, and that was it. They can't even sell 10,000 units of their normal vehicles. So I wrote this in May of last year. And here's the document right here. So you can kind of see these are the vehicles that they're looking at doing. The Milano is the junior. This is the compact like Jeep Avenger vehicle, which I actually seen one on the road today. I know ZF has tested them here in the US. They've been talking about bringing them here, but I did see a white one testing today on 696. And it's actually a pretty cool little vehicle, but it won't be coming here for sure. I don't think it will be. It's going to be too expensive. But anyways, here's the Stelvio here. It's going to be built in Casino. Julia's built in Casino. Tonali is built in the same place the Hornet is. But you can see right here, it says ECUV EV. So this is going to be a strictly Stella Large long wheelbase E segment crossover EV. Jefferson North, Detroit 1. They said in 2027 it was going to, their estimate is 1,961 units, and then in 2028 it was, excuse me, it's supposed to bring 10,715 units is what they're estimating. Now, since then we haven't heard any word on this. They didn't announce it during the UAW contracts. We don't know. Realistically, it wouldn't make any sense to spend the money on building an E-segment vehicle for Alfa Romeo in North America. Alfa Romeo is almost a dead brand here. Honestly, if it's, a lot of people are going to be upset at me, but I would like to see them discontinue Alfa Romeo for North America and spend the money on Dodge and Chrysler. You know, all the money they've put in marketing, there's like 115 dealers that are left. That's it. You know, you look at, there's 6,000, you know, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealers. So they aren't selling. And then Fiat's only got the one vehicle. They sold 3,200 units last year. So those studios, those Alfa Romeo Fiat studios, just, they don't drive the volume up. I'm sorry. I just, and they're spending tons of marketing money on Alfa Romeo and Fiat. And Ray, we're going to build this and this and this. It's a failed experiment. It's been going on. You know, Alfa's been going on since 2013. Fiat's been going on since what, 24? No, not even that. 14. 2012, maybe? 2012. 2012 is, I think, when we got the Fiat 500. Let's see here. I'm sorry, everybody's kind of going super quick. Let me go back. Hey, no problem, Rich. Thanks for joining us. Really plain front and Alpha mid-sized. Do you think there's anything beyond the CUDA and Viper Easter eggs people are talking about? So if you watched my live stream the other day, I actually talked about them. We've been talking about them for a while on Mopar Insiders. I just didn't want to say nothing because the funny thing is like if we go to our forums, we've been talking about them for quite a while. Let's see here. Let's see. One of the people on our forums was actually talking about it for quite a while. So March 18th is when we were talking about them here. So 99 GTS actually posted them, and you can see the images here. The very interesting thing is when I talked to one of the people I know at Dodge, they said that they had literally hid Easter eggs in this program. This is a Barracuda, but it's not going to be a CUDA model. It's not going to be its own thing. From what we're hearing, it's going to probably be a trim. So it's not like we don't know anything about it yet. And, you know, it could be just them kind of throwing us off a little bit. But for what we hear, it's not going to be its own designated model. It doesn't make any sense for Dodge to use a Plymouth name. It just doesn't. Let's see here. And the funny thing is too, is if you talk Barracuda, a lot of people don't know this. If you, let me see if I can pull this up. If you go on Mopar Insiders, back in 2018, I think it was. Hold on here. I caught images of a new spoiler for the Dodge Challenger. And everybody's seen this spoiler now, right here. This is June 20th of 2018. I caught this. I said it was a Hellcat Red Eye, or a Hellcat Wide Body, but it wasn't. This is actually a Scat Pack. But you can see on the back the spoiler, okay, here. Well, everybody knows it as the SRT spoiler now. That was on the Demon and everything else. And if you go to, I'll show you. Give me a second here. So Jared, who's my co-editor on Mopar Insiders, he bought a... Oh, let's see here. Come on. Don't tell me the website's down. If the website's down, we're going to have a problem. Hold on here. All right, it's not. Sometimes the forums, when people post some stuff, we have to go, the servers have to restart. We got 2 servers running Mopar Insiders, so one is a backup. Hold on here, 2023. So Jared went out and bought a 2023 last call Hellcat. He was actually going to buy a Demon 170, but the problem was in Canada, the allocations were going for too much. And Jared basically said, no, I'm not doing it. So he ended up buying a wide body car. And if you look at the back, the spoiler on it, that's the same as the the Demon 170 in that. This is called, just the SRT spoiler here. But in Canada, it's actually called the SRT Barracuda spoiler. Okay, a lot of people don't know that, but if you actually do the research, if we go to Google and type in, watch this, if I type in 2021 Dodge Challenger Canada SRT Barracuda spoiler, we'll probably get some stuff. Let me see here. So like here's Hellcat, the Hellcat website, right? See how it says performance spoiler? There's somebody even on the Hellcat forums that calls it, from Canada, calls it the Barracuda spoiler. So that's the actual code name. If you look at your early window stickers from Canada, it actually says SRT Barracuda spoiler. And then they changed it to SRT performance spoiler, but it's known in Canada as the Barracuda spoiler. Come on, let's get this thing loaded. So anyways, yeah, so a lot of people don't know that. So could it be a new spoiler design? I don't know. Maybe I'll do a follow-up on it. I don't think it's going to be a designated model or anything. I think it's just kind of a hint at maybe something. Back in 2015, Dodge did have, I don't know why their website's not working. Dodge did have a dealer meeting out in Las Vegas, and that was when they showed off what they originally were going to be proposing as the new next generation Dodge Charger that was going to be based on the Giorgio platform, and it was canceled. And they also announced, let me see if I can pull that up real quick, Las Vegas 2015 Dodge dealer. Actually, I should put Stellantis dealer meeting. Stellantis dealer meeting Barracuda. Actually, I'm going to put CUDA and Charger. All right. I don't know if we're going to be able to see this one. So this is the automotive news. We probably won't be able to read the whole thing because you have to subscribe. But anyways, back in 2015, this is August 26th of 2015 at 1 a.m. in the morning. Basically what they do at these dealer conventions is they invite dealers in and they take away their cell phones. And they basically tell them, hey, you got to kind of swear to secrecy about the things that we're going to show you. And they basically what they did was they showed them vehicles that were going to be like coming down the road 5 years from now. One of the vehicles was the Charger, and the dealers actually said that it looked a lot like the 1999 Dodge Charger concept, which is my favorite car of all time. So I was geeking out. I was a complete nerd about it. But anyways, they said that the next generation Charger would look like that. That vehicle was canceled, and you can see that we got the Charger that we did, the wide body and all that stuff. Another thing that they said was there was a Dodge Barracuda convertible. That's where we're hearing convertible things. They were looking at building a Challenger convertible. The thing is they introduced the CUDA name out there, and the reason why is they wanted feedback from the dealers. And a lot of people at that time were saying that it would be confusing because people would remember Plymouth. It's not a Dodge vehicle. Challenger made more sense. And to me, if they got rid of the Challenger name, they're just stupid, because this whole young generation of people that have no idea what a Barracuda is know what a Challenger is. So I think it's going to be something a little bit different than its own model. I think it's going to be either a trim or probably some kind of performance enhancement part to it. So, but anyways, they introduced it there, and that's where this whole, oh, they're going to make a Barracuda convertible. They wanted to test the waters. The very interesting thing is also there at the meeting, I have to find, Butter, are you still in here? I have original photos, or not photos, but like sketches from the FCA design studio of the original Demon, the 2018 car. Originally, it wasn't called the Demon. So when they introduced that car, they actually showed that car off in 2015. And the very interesting thing is, if we go and type in ADR, and we'll probably get, let's see here. I'm trying to look here. Let's see here. Anyways, the original name for the Demon was called ADR, American Drag Racer. I have images somewhere on a flash drive of the crate and the car with, it basically looked like the ACR logo, and it says ADR on it. I'll have to find them. I got them somewhere. Yeah, Barracuda coming back as a Dodge. But anyways, at that event in 2015, they showed off the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk to the public there. They showed off the upcoming 2018 Jeep Wrangler JL. You can see right here, in addition to the Barracuda, we were told that a new Challenger ADR, American Drag Racer, with 315s on all four corners and rumored to have upwards of 1,000 horsepower was shown as well. And if you might remember what I was told from some of the dealers that went, you might remember when Tim actually made the debut of the Demon. He had it come out of that box, that crate, and then it ran down and did like a, just a quick run down the stage. Apparently they did the same kind of thing, but it was made to kind of look like some kind of like Egyptian thing. It was weird, I guess. But anyways, that's what they said. And then here they said alongside that was a Challenger TA road course car with an upgraded suspension. No rear seat, unlike the Challenger TA concept that was shown before in blacked out top graphics. So we actually seen basically a ACR Challenger SEMA car. But at that time, they were showing a ACR Challenger road, like basically a road course car. It was supposed to be like stripped out, massive handling, and that's what we posted originally on Mopar Insiders was, hey, back in 2018, one of the big stories we did was about a Challenger ACR coming. And let me see here. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find it. And everybody goes, oh no, that never happened. Well, it did. The only thing was it was canceled. The problem is the Challenger is too heavy of a car. It wouldn't have made sense, like actual sense to build one. We talked about it a long time ago. I'm talking like 2018. But anyways, it was canceled. I'll have to look back through here. I'm not going to dig through this whole thing. I got it on here somewhere. But anyways, we had heard for a long time that they were working on this car. It didn't make any sense to us whatsoever. This guy made a Viper-powered one out of an SXT model, but there was supposed to be an actual ACR Viper, or not Viper, but a ACR Challenger. And we did see a concept of it. So there's a lot of things that, they had seen, the dealers had seen beforehand. But the CUDA thing, I don't think it's going to be really a big thing. Now, the Viper thing, everybody's talking about how they want a new Viper. Here's the thing. I'm a purist. I don't want to see the Viper return unless it's, just like it was. Front engine, mid-engine layout, rear-wheel drive. I don't want a mid-engine car. To me, the new Corvette, it's cool, but to me, it's not a Corvette. Zora did that whole mid-engine thing. That's fine, but to me, the C8 is not a Corvette. A lot of people can complain and stuff, but the mid-engine thing, while it's cool and it's affordable for most people, the Corvette itself was cool because, you could go to a dealer and buy one for $45,000. Now, we've seen rebates and stuff with the C8, but, you're looking over $100,000 for like a performance one. To me, it's become a car that's not reachable for most people. The Viper was a very limited hand-built car. I don't want to see it mass-produced. I want to see it hand-built again if it's going to be built. I'm very much a purist, and I think a lot of Viper people are very, very much into that kind of that way forward. Some people would like to see a mid-engine Dodge Viper. You know, Bob Lutz and them, they tested a second gen. I'll show you it. There's some really bad images. I got somewhere I have a whole bunch of thumb drives. I'll have to dig them up of actual images people had sent me over the years. Like this one's on Reddit. Let me see if I can pull this up. But this is a mid-engine Dodge Viper Gen 2 prototype. It's actually got a V10 in the rear. You can see that it's stretched out, and they basically move the cab forward. So the greenhouse is forward. Still got the same kind of body lines and stuff, but this was an actual prototype car. It was never like, you know, as far as I know, it was just a design study. It never got past the design phase. But there was a lot of, here's another picture. This is a terrible picture of this car. I got to find my images because I have a ton of images that are like super, like here we go. Here's a side profile of it. This is at CTC. This is in one of the design studios. This is probably the Dodge one. This is with the inside the design dome here. And then you can kind of see, like, you know, it still looks like a Gen 2 Viper, but you can see the whole greenhouse has been moved forward. So there's a couple pictures of it. There's this one too. This one's a really blurry shot, but I have like some really good quality, like those photos there. I have them like all like super high quality photos that people sent to me a long time ago. I used to have people send me all these prototype vehicles that were never produced, like photos. I love that kind of stuff. Like when I was growing up, I wanted to be a car designer. That was like my whole goal, especially for Chrysler. And then I was always thought that I would be bad at math. I'm like, I'm terrible at math. I can't do it. That was the only reason why I didn't go into design. And come to find out that you don't need to know math. The computers do everything for you. But I took like 4 years of drafting in high school, and I did all that stuff. I used to draw cars every day. So design to me was always one of the reasons why I loved Chrysler. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on with those cars, but unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to build a Viper. Now they're working on the sports cars, according to what I heard, and obviously, Matt Mackler's actually been pretty vocal about it. He said, "Hey, we're working on a basic sports car," and I've heard some really cool things about what they're doing from some people that I know in the design studio. So I'm not going to say anything because I promised them I would never say anything, but it sounds really cool. Let's see here. Sorry, I missed a lot of stuff because I've been rambling on. Let's see here. Why didn't they move some of the Chrysler production, for instance, the C6S over to Belvedere? That's a great question. I would love to see a Chrysler, like the C6X. I think it would be great for Belvedere. Belvedere definitely needs more than one product. So I would love to see the C6X make it to the US. Plus, honestly, I would love to see Chrysler come back to the US. Chrysler's technically a Canadian brand now. Let's see here. Has Dodge Stellantis painted themselves into a corner with this small Fiat SUV? Herbert, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but are you talking about is painted themselves in a corner with a small Fiat SUV? So Fiat's actually the best-selling brand for Stellantis. They sold more vehicles than any other brand in 2024. They're massively huge in South America. Like, they have a little subcompact truck called the Strada down there, and it's actually sold as the Ram 700 in Mexico. It's front-wheel drive only, stick shift. You can get a CVT in it now. But that's one of the best-selling vehicles. That's actually their second best-selling nameplate behind the Ram 1500 for the whole company. That Fiat, if you're talking about the North American market with the 500e, yeah, I don't think the 500e is going to be great here. Even they're going to put a hybrid engine in that vehicle for Europe. They spent $140 million converting the current generation 500e into a hybrid. And that vehicle is supposed to launch, what is it, later this year, I think? I can't remember if it's fourth quarter 2025 or maybe first quarter of 2026. Anyways, it's supposed to launch very soon. And the thing is with that vehicle is it's going to have a 1 liter 3-cylinder engine. So I doubt that they're ever going to send that here. Let's see here. Just going through. I don't think anything beyond Pacifica Voyager will come out of Chrysler until Fuel's gone as CEO. Now, she said, so here's the thing. I just did a video on that. You can go back on the channel and watch it. I actually wrote to Chrysler, and they they basically told me that they're not going to be a all EV brand. So we broke that news on Mopar Insiders, and I broke it on this channel too. Basically what they're going to do is, she's been very vocal about this. They're going to launch a 2026 update to the Pacifica. We're going to see a new front end. From what I've been told, it looks very much, it's funny because she wanted to get away from the airflow design. This new one's going to kind of look a little bit like the airflow. That's going to make the Pacifica look a little more like airflow like. But it's going to be a minor update. We're going to see some interior changes, small interior changes, but nothing radical. Just like the Grand Cherokee, it's going to have the same powertrains and everything going forward. She originally said that they're going to build an all-electric separate Pacifica model. We haven't heard her say anything since, I don't know, probably January on that. So we don't think that's going to go through. The second vehicle they're going to build for sure is the C6X. She actually said that they're working on a medium-sized crossover, which is the C6X. It's going to be a D-segment SUV, just like the Wagoneer S. It's going to be a 5-passenger, 2-row, 4-wheel, like basically all-wheel drive crossover. That's going to be the next vehicle, and that's going to be delayed a little bit because obviously they want to solve all the issues with the current Stella Large vehicles. So we're going to see that. It was supposed to make its debut. It was actually supposed to make its debut last year. Now it might not make its debut this year, but it will definitely be in the lineup by 2020, late 2026. And then after that, she said that they're working on a sedan. So that's going to be, she said it's going to be influenced by the Halcyon concept, which I hope to God it's not, because I'm not a huge fan of the Halcyon. I hate that car. It doesn't look like a Chrysler to me. It looks like a Aston Martin, like, I don't know, some kind of Aston Martin kind of car. It does not look Chrysler-like at all. But she said they're working on a sedan, and she just did a video, which if you go back and read or watch my video on the Chrysler stuff, or go on Mopar Insiders and read my stuff about the whole Chrysler change for multi-energy, she goes through and says that that the new sedan, like basically she sees a return to the car segment because everyone wants, these EVs, and the only way to really make EVs more efficient is to have them in cars. So it makes sense. But I think that there's definitely stuff in the works. I just don't see her as an effective CEO. I've met her once, like I said. I actually met her twice. I met her twice. She's a very nice lady. I'm not going to cut her down and put her down for the fact that she's not like a nice person. She's a very nice woman. I met her when I actually ordered my 300C at the 300C launch event. The thing is she hasn't been an effective CEO. They spent all that money on the airflow, and it wasn't a bad looking vehicle. It wasn't like, again, it's one of those vehicles that's evolutionary. It wasn't like, oh my God, a totally designed different look for Chrysler. It wasn't. Not like the Halcyon, but it was production ready, and it was something that Chrysler needed. Like the airflow concept, if it made it into production, would have been a fantastic competitor for like the Model Y. The Model Y is not a super attractive vehicle, but the Chrysler was very generic, but it looked like a Chrysler. I was fine with that. It would have been just a Chrysler version of the Wagoneer S. I was totally fine with that. It was probably with lower horsepower, but who cares? Overall, to me, like her highlights of her whole thing at being at the Chrysler brand so far is, well, she discontinued the 300. She introduced two airflow concepts that didn't make it into production because she changed the design direction after they spent all that money. And then she introduced an autism, like basically a kit for the Pacifica, and introduced the Halcyon. That's it. There's been no new products. And I was really disappointed as a Chrysler fan all this year that the 2025 cars weren't badged as 100th anniversary edition vehicles and all this stuff. As a diehard Chrysler fan, like Chrysler brand fan, I just don't think she gets the brand. She's talking about how people are buying minivans because they're empty nesters, which has been forever, or they're dog people, or they're like, you know, buying them for adventure. Well, adventure is Jeep's thing. It's not, people don't buy minivans for an adventure vehicle. So that's the weird part that I don't understand. Like, I don't think she gets the brand. The brand, it was a blue collar luxury brand, and that's when it was successful. They need to go back to that. They need to go back to how it was in 2012. 2012, when the imported from Detroit thing hit, it was huge. Huge. They don't need to be a mainstream brand. Dodge needs to go back to being a mainstream brand with performance, you know, SRT models. That's what they need to do. They've gotten so away from their original formula. It's crazy. But anyways, I'm not going to go on a rant because I can go on a rant for an hour. Is the 500E not selling? No, it's not selling, Herbert. They only sold 3,200 vehicles last year. Let's see here. My dad gave me his 1966 Plymouth Sport Fury 3 with a 383 under the hood. That passing gear was exciting. Dude, the Sport Fury was a cool car. That's an awesome car. I really appreciate... I lost my spot. Let's see here. Butter says, I think they used Wesley Motorsports to test the Challenger ACR. They do a bunch of stuff with Dodge. They could have. They had that Pikes Peak model, but that was something totally different. That was a straight out race car. I've been looking at Hornets, but the reliability issues scare me. So perhaps I'll better drive my Dodge Dart for a few more years. John, I'll be honest with you. One of my buddies who used to work for Stellantis was a huge fan of the Hornet when it came out. He's a big Alfa Romeo guy. He leased one of them, and it spent more time in the shop than he's had it. When he's had it, he's been really happy with it. But it's not because it's not a bad vehicle. It's actually a decent vehicle. The problem is getting parts for the stupid thing is a pain in the ass because everything comes from Europe. And because of the tariffs and stuff now, it's a total mess. So if you're, I don't want to say stay away from the Hornet. If you like the Hornet, you can get a good deal on one, get it. But I would not, I just definitely would not go out and buy one if you want one right now. I mean, if you can get a good deal on it, go for it. It's not a bad vehicle driving it. I'm not a huge fan of the layout of it. You can buy a C8 Corvette for 50 grand now. I believe that. The question I have is either MC20 based Viper or no. Here's the thing. Viper would have to be its own thing. It can't be based on the MC20. The MC20 has a carbon fiber monocoque. It would put the Viper make it so freaking expensive that it would be like almost twice the price of what the last generation Viper was. So that would be crazy in my opinion. A Stella Large based Viper, they could do it. I mean, that's what the Maserati Gran Turismo is. It's a Stella Large based vehicle. Well, technically it's not. It's a Giorgio platform vehicle, but we all know that the Giorgio platform is basically what the Stella Large platform is. The only difference is they modified it so it could accommodate batteries. So, but anyways, nonetheless, I wouldn't have a problem with that as long as they could do it right. And then they're not going to use Connor again. The Connor is now what they use for all the media launches and stuff. Connor is where all the museum pieces went. Now, I would absolutely love to see them. Like right now, Alfa Romeo and Maserati's North American headquarters, which used to be the Walter P. Chrysler Museum, is sitting empty. They haven't used it in, at least 2 years now. I would love to see them actually open up the museum again. I think that would be awesome. But Connor is where they hold all their concept cars, certain clay models. It's like basically where they hold everything. I've been dying to know why the hell they haven't opened that up to the public. Like even just one day a week where they can have like the public go through and see the stuff, because that was what was so cool about the museum. I mean, I know they use Connor Center for like, if you go on Mopar In Centers, we have a whole gallery from Connor Center. This was back when they opened it for a Christmas party for, hold on here. This is back in 2018 when they opened it up for a Christmas party for this design studio. So you can see there's the 2016, Jesus. The 2006 Dodge Challenger RT concept vehicle. You can see that there. Hold on here. Come on. I'm sorry, my freaking chat just went down. So anyways, they have all the concept cars and stuff there. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get my chat back up. Hold on here. Sorry, guys. Give me just a second. I want to make sure I can see what everybody's saying. Just a second. So anyways, they have everything there. Like everything. Like here's a 2018 JL clay model that they have sitting there. And they have like a conference room and stuff. You can see back here. This is actually, you talk about Frank Rhodes. He's a buddy of mine. This is a Hemi 392 Hemi air raid siren. They're like basically a big, massive siren that they used. This was at the museum. You can see that. There's an old tank engine sitting there. One of the original Hemi tank engines. Frank actually bought one of these. And actually, maybe I'll ask him if I can post some pictures of it. He's crazy. He ended up basically restoring it, and he put it on a 1940 Dodge cab over pickup truck. So it's on like a flatbed on this truck, and it's awesome. I mean, there's only like a few in existence. I think there's only maybe like 4 still left. But yeah, he's got one of those. Hold on here. I'm trying to work this out. I'm trying to do multiple things. But anyways, he's actually got one of those that he completely restored recently. So I'm hoping that he will let me post pictures and stuff of it. I'm trying to get him to do a video. He's got a YouTube channel. Frank Rhodes actually has a YouTube channel. I've been trying to get him to do more videos and stuff, and hopefully we will. But we'll see. He's not very, when it comes to technology, he's not very fluent in technology. He's got a buddy who does stuff with him, but we'll be doing some stuff on this channel with him actually when we go to the Carlisle Nationals, because I'm meeting up with him there. And then on top of that, I actually have Frank, I don't know if you guys know this, but Frank actually bought a Daytona at one of the Mecum auctions. He actually bought this really cool unrestored Dodge Charger Daytona, 69 Charger Daytona. And I did an article on it. And I actually have diecast cars of the car. And I'm going to have Frank sign one. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give one away on here. So I got one for me to put away. I got one for Jared, and I think I'm going to give one away. But Frank went on. This is his, if you want to go to this article here, Frank Rhodes Jr. adds rare 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona to collection that I wrote back in September. This is his YouTube channel. Actually, no, this is his buddy's YouTube channel. I'm sorry, Robert Soul. He's actually a really cool guy. Robert's the one who does all the things. Frank's actually got a YouTube channel, but I don't think he even knows the password to it. So I'm going to try to get him set up, because I think he's got so much stuff. I want him to like tell the stories about his grandma and stuff like that. And like all these stories that he has. He's got tons and tons of stories. But this is the car he bought. And I have a Greenlight made a diecast car of it, and I bought a bunch of them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him sign it, and then I'll give it away on the channel. You know, maybe if we hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, I'll do something like that. So I think that would be kind of cool. So you can see it's completely unrestored. Drives great. He called me a couple, 2 weeks ago while he was driving it. So, but it's completely unrestored. And it's got a really cool history to it. If you go online and type in Spirit of 76 Dodge Charger Daytona on YouTube, you'll find a couple videos on it. It's actually a really cool car. It's got a really cool backstory to it. Let me see here. Let me go back. Hold on here. Frank Rhodes needs to buy Chrysler. Frank, I'll tell you the story about that real quick. Frank and I, like when I posted that article about, I broke the news that he was interested in buying Chrysler. Frank doesn't have the billions of dollars to buy Chrysler. The thing is he's got a lot of friends that have deep pockets, and that they were looking at giving him money to buy the company. The problem was we didn't know how much the company was valued at. So when Frank made his proposal to Stellantis, it was basically because he was worried about the Chinese buying Chrysler and Dodge. There was rumors going around that BYD was looking at buying Chrysler, and it was funny because what was it? I had pictures of these Chinese guys over at Windsor getting out of black Wagoneers. And it was kind of funny because I wasn't really sure what was going on. And, TK, I was talking to him, and he had pictures of the same people, the same 4 people at CTC. So back, that was, like over a year ago. And we kind of knew that they were looking at doing something with the Chrysler brand and Dodge brand. So, I mean, when Frank found out about it, he was like, hey, I want to find out how much they want for the brands. Frank has talked about, trying to get into a position where he could buy the company. The problem is he doesn't want to run it. So, I mean, he would ultimately like to bring the company back to American hands and stuff like that and get it as a separate, brand, but he would not be able to run it. It's not that he wouldn't be good at it. I think if he got the right team to do it, he could. But I think it's just not in his forte. Frank is more about preserving the brands. He wants to preserve his great-grandfather's legacy. And I think going forward, I want him to be more vocal about it because, I mean, he's been going to UAW rallies. He's been really getting his face out there. He's been on several different YouTube channels. He's doing a podcast with Scott Gasser. Scott Gasser, I just did a podcast with him called the Mopar Podcast. You can go on there, and I did like a 2-hour podcast with him, asking me questions and stuff. Frank's going to do that, but there's a lot of things that Frank wants to be very vocal about. And I'm like, hey, you got to get on YouTube. Like, YouTube is great. He's a great public speaker, and he's going to be at Carlisle. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, him getting his YouTube channel going, because I really would like to see him be more vocal about, his take on stuff. Let me see. I'm just going through here. I agree that Chrysler needs to build a new generation 300C, as the car is their bread and butter, like the Dodge Charger was Dodge's. I wouldn't say it's their bread and butter. They sell way more Pacificas than 300s. The 300 was more of a halo car. The 300 is basically what the definition of the Chrysler brand is. It's an affordable luxury vehicle. It was the banker's hot rod, and the 300 was that. I mean, if you look at it compared to the Dodge Charger, they spent a lot of money on marketing the Dodge Charger and Challenger. Here's a funny fact. Did you know that since 2018, they never did any marketing for the 300? And yet it still sold pretty decent, considering that there was no marketing put towards it. All the marketing money went to the Pacifica. And yet, if you look at Dodge, look how much money they dumped into Dodge with the Dodge Charger and Challenger. But there was the last time they did a commercial for the 300 was in 2018 with Gary Cole, the guy who played the dad on the remake of the Brady Bunch movies, and you might know him as what the heck's his name from Office Space? He was the boss. Oh shoot, why am I that's one of my favorite movies too. Bill Lumberg. You might remember him. Matter of fact, we can watch it real quick. It's actually a really good thing. But yeah, I was going about Connor Center. I'm going all over the place. But Connor Center's got all the vehicles there. You can see like all the historical vehicles and stuff. So that's the thing. That's what I want them to open up. If you go on Mopar Insiders, you can see a ton of photos. We got a lot of photos from the Connor Center. This right here, I bet you no one knows what this is. This is the very first 2020 or 20. God, I'm out of it. 2003 Ram 1500 with a Hemi engine in it. The very first one. They still have it. They also have the very first Ram SRT10. Oh, come on. There we go. Very first Ram SRT10. Sitting right next to the 2014 Dodge Rumblebee concept vehicle, which is one of my favorite vehicles. There's so much cool stuff there. Remember the Jeep Hurricane? The Jeep Hurricane concept with a Hemi, a 5.7 up front, and a 5.7 up back, and the wheels could tilt in, and it could do 360 donuts with it. It's all carbon fiber. That's there. Everything's there. Everything's at Connor. All these posters used to be at the museum. They're all there. And this is the plant that used to build the Viper and Prowler. I've been to Connor several times when I was a kid. I got to go on tours all the time because I knew a lot of people that worked there, and you were allowed to come as a guest once in a while. This is the 2005 Jeep Gladiator concept. You might remember it was green. They painted it back in 08, 07, 08. They painted it yellow. But this is the original Jeep Gladiator concept. It's sitting there. So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff there. Every time, like, I see Ralph Gilles every once in a while, I keep telling him, like, hey, when are they going to open up Connor? I don't know. We've been trying to get them to do it. This is the Power Wagon from 1999. Mark Allen was such a great Jeep designer, but he was even a better Dodge truck designer. The 1999 Power Wagon concept was just amazing. Had a 5.9 Cummins under the hood. Just absolutely gorgeous truck. And those wheels actually made it into production on the 2002 Ram 1500. So, but absolutely gorgeous truck. I love that truck. Yeah, Mark did such a great job with a lot of concept vehicles. But you can see, like, if you go on there, there's a ton of photos of different stuff. The very first Jeep SRT8, Grand Cherokee SRT8, that's there. Here's the very first Grand Cherokee that ever came off the line at Jefferson North. Still there, still in mint condition. One of my favorite concepts, I wrote a whole bunch of articles about this. The original 2009 Dodge Challenger 1320 concept. This was basically a Dodge Challenger RT that was stripped completely down. Uses cop car wheels, has a solid axle in the back, 426, Gen 2 426. It's not a Gen 3, Gen 2. And this was just built for drag racing. It's actually got a manual transmission in it. Just totally cool concept car. You can go on Mopar Insiders and read. I've done like 2 or 3 articles on it because every time I see it, it always I do videos and stuff on it. So you can actually watch some videos on this channel about it. And then you can see like right here, look at like tons of historical vehicles they have. Last TJ Wrangler, look at built June 30th of 2006. It's still there. It's a sport. Beautiful shape. There's the Copperhead concept behind it. They got tons of dusters. A lot of this stuff you've probably seen in photos from the, the Dodge archives, like photo archives and stuff. But all their cars are there under one roof. It's just amazing. And no one from the outside has been able to see it. So, yeah, I miss a lot of that stuff. But hopefully one day we'll get it, get back to seeing it. So, anyways, if you want to go, you can go on that article and actually see more. Let me see here. Barracuda should be a luxury Chrysler Mustang killer with a 4-door sports sedan called the Valiant. Let's see here. Their biggest mistake was to discontinue the 300C sedan with rear-wheel drive V8 car. That's one of the reasons why I had to buy my 2023 car. Again, I got rid of it. I've been looking at buying cars like in the last couple of weeks, and it's funny because I sold my car for a loss, and now I'm seeing people starting to like, oh hey, my 300C with 2,400 miles on it is worth $65,000. No way. I can go to a dealer and buy one brand new with discounts because they're still sitting in lots. Make Chrysler Corporation American again. I like that. Let's see here. Currently working on my drive for design submission. Ryan, you better hurry up. That thing's ending really quick. It ends this week, so make sure to get your thing in like soon, like very soon. Real Corinthian leather, Ricardo Montalban. So, anyways, let me see. Let's see if I can go back here. Hold on a second. The problem is like for some reason or other, I always my internet's always slow out here in my office because if you guys don't know, I actually have my office is in my garage. I have a separate 4-car garage. So like on the other side of this wall back here, I actually have that 1979 Chrysler 300 that you guys see in the beginning of the video. It's behind the wall here. So, but my internet, like I have a Wi-Fi booster from the house and it just is super slow. So a lot of times when I see your stuff, it's very, very slow. Dodge needs to bring back a new generation Challenger. I would agree. I think the Challenger nameplate needs to come back. I really do. I think, and Butter said this in the last live stream. Him and I both agree. I think that it needs to be built on the Stella Large platform. It needs to be downsized to be just slightly bigger than the Mustang with V6 and V8 power, just like the old formula. There's no reason why it can't go down to like 113-inch wheelbase, a little bit smaller than the outgoing car, but it's still usable. That was the one thing that everybody liked about the Challenger. You know, if you had to, it wasn't the most comfortable thing to sit in the back of it, but you could fit 4 adults in that car if you had to. Let's see here. Oh, Grant's deleting stuff. Challenger TA. Yeah, the Challenger TA package was awesome. I think they should build a new version of one. Let's go back to Mopar Insiders real quick. Let's go and look at what else I was going to talk about tonight. Oh, this is some interesting stuff. A lot of people didn't know this. So Jeep's actually been expanding big time in South Korea. Just last month, I posted an article about the Jeep Wrangler introducing a limited edition 41 edition basically Wrangler, and it was a very unique package. They're only building 50 of them. It wasn't like the 41 edition Willys that we have here. It's a totally different vehicle. But anyways, now they introduced the 2025 Jeep Gladiator there, and it's only in Rubicon trim. Comes in one model. You basically pick your color. That's it. So I did a whole article about that. If you want to read more in depth on that, you can. It talks about pricing and everything, and actually pricing wasn't too bad. It was about $62,000 there. So yeah, it's a premium price, but considering it's on the other side of the world and shipping and all that stuff from Ohio, it's not that bad. But the very interesting thing about after I did that article, there was some new news posted. I posted it today. They're building a 41 edition Gladiator over there. So here's the Wrangler 41 over there. It's in that 41 color. But you can see it's in Rubicon. They also have like different tops you can get for that one. There's like 4 different kind of models you can get for the 41 edition Wrangler. However, the Rubicon Gladiator 41 over there might be just the rarest Jeep special edition model ever, because they're only building 9 units from the factory. 9 units. And again, 41 olive drab is the color. And it's got a unique badge to it right here. And it says Gladiator 41, but it's basically just a Rubicon with a slapped on badge. But only 9 of these are going to be built. And then the cool thing is it's got Pentastar power, of course. And then here's the official banner that they have at the dealerships. They sent me over the banner, the design of the banner. But the very interesting thing is, if you buy one, like, obviously if you bought a Demon 170, you would get, like, you know, a special, like, it was like a liquor set, you know, like a, what was it, like a, God, I'm going blank. You know, you got glasses, you got like a pourer, or whatever it's called. But anyways, here they give you a cup, like a metal cup, a flask, which I thought was hilarious, and some tiny shot glasses. So if you buy one, it says Gladiator 41 edition on a flask, an actual tumbler cup, and some shot glasses. So I just thought it was funny. But yeah, they're only selling 9 units. That's it. 9. And the best thing is over there they can write it off as a work truck. So basically the special edition one is $61,500 over there. So this might be the very rarest Jeep limited edition vehicle ever produced. 9 units. So I thought that was funny. Let me see. This is a cool event. This is going on in 2 weeks. If you guys are from around the Michigan area, like Detroit area, this is actually a really fun event. The North Oakland Modern Mopars group, they put on like a Mopar swap meet car show. I'm going to be there for sure. It's actually a really cool event. It costs like $5 if you're not a NOM member. But it's at the Packard Proving Grounds. So, you know, obviously the automotive, you know, automaker Packard, everybody kind of knows them. They still have their proving grounds around. It's up at like 23 Mile Road in Utica Township, or Shelby Township, I'm sorry. I used to live not too far from there, but it's actually really cool. They do weddings and stuff. They don't have the whole proving grounds anymore, because actually where the test track was, it's actually now a subdivision, but they still have the original buildings. And it's kind of cool because it's got a lot of history. Like when Charles Lindbergh, actually, who, you know, flew around the world, he was using a plane with Packard engines. They actually took off from that place to go to New York to actually do that whole around the world trip. So he flew out of here. I mean, there's just a lot of cool history at the place, and there's going to be a ton of Mopars there. There's going to be a really cool swap meet. It's on Sunday, May 4th, so if you guys are in the area of Detroit, get over there. They still have some parking spaces. It's like $25 to get your car in there. And basically it includes, you know, 1 driver, 1 passenger. But if you can't, it's just basically, you know, $5 a person to get in. So I shot these pictures a few years ago. This was a really cool delivery truck, a Dodge delivery truck that was there. And you can see the old buildings and stuff. So it's a really cool site. Hopefully the weather will hold out and we'll have some really good weather for it. Because, what was it? 2 years ago, it was pouring rain. But it was still pretty fun. Let me see here. There was a couple other things. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. So everybody's been kind of wondering what is going on with Ram and Dodge with NASCAR. So I've been kind of following this whole thing because I used to be the biggest NASCAR fan ever. And growing up, I was all about NASCAR, even before Dodge. And when 2001 hit, I was like all Dodge. I still got my big Dodge Motorsports flag and all that stuff. Matter of fact, I have Bill Elliott's autograph back from 2001 sitting right down there on my floor. Right next to my thing over there, I got his autograph. But anyways, yeah, it was always been a huge decanter set. Thanks, Butter. I just couldn't say it. Anyways, I was wondering, you know, what the hell's going on with the Ram? Well, there's this website that's actually from a bunch of YouTubers. They put all their videos and stuff on there, and it's called the Daily Downforce. And the very interesting thing is they were talking about some posts that were from some pretty well-known sources on Twitter. And one of them is kind of like a 50-50 kind of person that, you know, kind of gets things right and wrong. But the other one was an actual, like, really serious source. And what they're saying is, basically, if you follow the Craftsman Truck Series, you might know who GMS Racing is. GMS it's always been like a Chevy team, and they dominated the Craftsman Truck Series for multiple years. They were always in competition, like right up to the end for the championship. They won multiple championships. They had tons of really good drivers. Anyways, what we're hearing is they discontinued the team in 2003. However, if you look at, what's his name? The owner, Murray Gallagher. He used to be the CEO for Allegiant Airlines. This is his son right here. This is Spencer Gallagher. He hasn't raced since 2018, but this weekend he's making his first return to competition. He's making, I think, an ARCA. Anyways, he's going to run a couple ARCA races this year. And the very interesting thing is GMS, Murray bought into Petty Motorsports, Richard Petty Motorsports. And then it became in Cup Series, Petty GMS Racing. Then Jimmy Johnson bought into it, and now it's Legacy Motor Club. So what we're hearing is Dodge has looked for a team that could be competitive. And obviously GMS has been competitive in the past, but they haven't run competition since 2023. But what we're hearing is they could return to Cup Series starting next year in 2026 with a full Ram sponsorship. Now, what makes this interesting is it's fueling rumors because obviously there's the, GMS connection. Now, GMS is totally separate from Legacy Motor Club, but Legacy Motor Club's been struggling. They're a Toyota team. And yeah, it seems weird that the number 43 is on a Toyota. However, we know Dodge is obsessed with having their name attached to Richard Petty. Okay, Chrysler's always been that way. You remember Petty went to Ford back in 69. They built the Superbird just to attract Richard Petty. This might be the first steps to get into possibly having Legacy Motor Club as their actual Cup team. So Ram sounds like they're going to be coming back with GMS. We don't know how many trucks. We know that Spencer Gallagher will probably be one of the drivers. He's been successful in the Xfinity series. He's been successful in Craftsman trucks, but he's never made it in the Cup or anything. But he hasn't raced since 2018. And we know that they can field good drivers and stuff. So it'll be very interesting to see how this comes about. The thing is Ram can actually make a very fast transition into Craftsman trucks. The reason why is really they only have to design like the front end of the truck. Everything else is basically the same spec. The other thing is they don't have to have an engine program. So Ilmore Racing Engines out of Michigan actually builds a spec engine for the Craftsman Truck Series. So they don't have to have a Dodge engine. So they can come in, basically design a front end for a truck, get it approved, and make sure that they can be at Daytona by 2026. They'll be there. So it sounds like this might be a real thing. And again, it's coming from multiple sources, and even the Daily Downforce says that it sounds like it is the truth. We're supposed to be hearing more about it very soon. So maybe this is one of Tim Kuniskis, announcements. Like, hey, he said that there's going to be new products and there's going to be new things coming up. This sounds like it might be one. So again, they've been competitive in the past. It'll be very interesting to see how all this stuff works out. Because if they can get into GMS, maybe it's a footstep into Legacy Motor Club so they can have the 43 back. But we've been hearing a bunch of teams being interested. I really think that if it was me in running the Dodge Motorsports program, I would be really going after Brad Keselowski and the old Roush, Fenway Keselowski racing team. I think RFK Racing would be probably my number one team. I mean, they build engines for a lot of people. With Roush Yates, they need an engine builder, but Roush Yates could build Ford engines and Dodge engines at the same time. The thing is they are not Ford's number one team. And Brad obviously has a connection with his dad and him behind the wheel of Dodges, throughout their careers. I think it would be a very good step to kind of push the envelope for Roush in Roush Fenway Racing, RFK Racing. So we'll see. Yeah, 7 years is too long to be away from racing. That's why he's running. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what he's running. He's going to be running Rockingham this weekend, and then he's going to be running Talladega, Kansas, and Charlotte. So he's running all those in the ARCA series, and then we're going to hear that he's probably going to go to back the trucks. So who knows? But yeah, he hasn't been actually in competition since 2018. But they always had 3 or 4 trucks in the series. So I don't think it's just going to be him. But he's been one of the rumored drivers to be helping launch the Ram brand in the Craftsman Truck Series. So this is like the first big news that we've actually heard since the announcement that, it sounds like Ram and Dodge are coming back to Cup. Dodge will not return to Cup until 2028, which would actually be really good for them, because if they can bring the Hemi back by then, that'll be a booming marketing move, because obviously Hemi engines, V8 rear-wheel drive, muscle car going back into NASCAR, that'd be huge. So we'll see. Let's see here. Richard Petty was putting great for Plymouth and Dodge in the racing world. Exactly. And I really think that with all this stuff going on, even Richard Petty, he doesn't have much to do with the team anymore. But just having that 43 on a Dodge means a lot for Mopar, just in general. So I think that would be a huge step going forward. And honestly, if Dodge is coming back, they're going to need more than one team. I mean, they tried it with Penske, and look what happened. The problem is you can't run with just one team as a factory-backed team. I mean, Penske kind of, the problem is I understand why Roger Penske did what he did. He went to Ralph Gilles, who was in charge of the SRT Motorsports, program at the time, and he was asking for a multi-year deal. But for some reason, Dodge and SRT Motorsports would not give him a multi-year deal. They wanted a year-by-year contract, and Roger wants, some kind of security. Like, hey, what's going on? Are we going to lose you guys at the end of the year? And I don't think, Dodge really knew what they were doing at the time. Are we going to go into NASCAR next year? Are we going to back out? But when they introduced that car, I mean, Penske put all that time and money into developing that car. But as soon as they had announced the 2013 Dodge Charger, it was like, hey, we're going to Ford, because Ford will offer us a multi-year deal. And it screwed them. And Ralph was looking for a team, and he couldn't find one. There was a lot of teams that approached him, but they weren't successful teams. The problem is Dodge needs a team that has a engine program. And I really think if RFK can get on board Roush Yates Racing Engines, there's been plenty of times where, EJR, Earnhardt Ganassi Racing, they built engines for multiple teams. There's no reason why they can't build two engine programs. There's just no reason why. All the cars in Cup now are the same exact car. They're built outside the companies. They're built by a company in Michigan here. Basically, all they have to do is just, do minor things to the cars and put the engines in them. So there's not a lot of things that Dodge has to do other than create a body and an engine program. So they need a team for sure with an engine program, and Legacy doesn't have it. They just buy their engines from TRD. So we'll see. But for what it sounds like, the GMS might be coming back with full Ram sponsorship. And again, they could be competitive right off the bat, because if the series is running a spec engine, Ilmore Racing Engines build some amazing engines. They're actually GM-based engines. Because Ilmore, again, is not that far from my house. If you don't know me personally, I am massively into offshore powerboat racing. I've been into powerboat racing since I was a little kid. And one of my best friends, who actually passed away this a year and a half ago, he owned a boat racing team, my buddy Chris Reindl. And I used to go all over the country with him and stuff like that. And he had these things they looked like they're really low profile boats he bought the design for them, and he manufactured them. And they called them bat boats. And one of the guys that actually raced with him bought the rights to him after Chris passed away, and he's actually raced them now. I actually used to run Chris's Facebook page for all of his boat racing stuff, because I used to I'm a photographer, so I'd go take pictures and stuff. But anyways, Chris ran Ilmore Racing Engines. He had a 5.7, 350 block in there, and the thing was bulletproof. I mean, he could beat the hell out of those engines, and Ilmore builds some amazing bulletproof engines. So having Ram come into Craftsman Trucks and not having to worry about building an engine, just going into this spec motor that's been proven. And the funny thing was, when Ilmore came to Craftsman Trucks, back then it was Camping World, but if they came into Craftsman Trucks at the time, they allowed these guys to run either the manufactured engines or the Ilmore engines. And the Ilmore engines had less failures. They produced more power than what the manufacturers were producing. and they were cheaper to build and buy and actually fix. So it just made sense. So I think that, you know, by having this kind of like spec racing, yeah, it's not as fun because it's not a true Ram or not a true Dodge or whatever. But you know what the honest God's truth is? It makes them competitive right off the bat. All they have to do is create a front end styling, you know, fascia for their trucks, and they're ready to go. So it's very easy, very, very easy. So let's see. So yeah, if you're wondering about Ram, at least we know a little bit of details. Hopefully they're true. And we'll hear more about it coming up this summer, because it sounds like this summer's we're gonna get a ton of stuff from NASCAR about the whole next, you know, year's silly season and stuff like that. Let's see here. I'm trying to see what else we can talk about, because there's been so much. Oh, here's a funny one. We were talking about Maserati earlier. So I try to, you know, do stuff about all the recalls and that. I try to post any kind of Stellantis recall that's for North America on the website. So Maserati, excuse me. Maserati's the Gran Turismo for 2024 was recalled. And it was recalled for a tire label issue. And this is kind of getting to be a common thing where they're either misprinted or they forgot to put them in the car or something. But this was a very weird recall. And it's you're going to laugh when you hear about this. So they recalled 21 units for the United States. And the reason why was because it's this color here. So this is a very limited edition. This is the Prima series, the 75th Prima series edition. And the very interesting thing is this black color. It's like a matte black finish. As a matter of fact, what the heck is the name of the thing? It's like Nero something. I can't remember the color. Nero Scabrio or whatever. It's this really cool matte finish that looks almost like purple and blue because it's so dark, especially in the lights. And they had this green badging on it. For some reason or another, the paint had a different kind of finish to it. And when they put the stickers for the tire pressure inside the door, they weren't adhering to the paint, so they just fell off. So they actually did back in February, Stellantis was notified that the stickers were coming off the cars. They were on the B pillars in the inside and they were falling off. So they opened up an internal investigation that took about 2 months, and they found out that the glue appeared like basically when it was applied to the label, it wouldn't adhere to the paint and it would just fall off. And it was only this one color. So it's like a really stupid recall, but it affected 21 units. So they actually had to issue a recall for it. So I guess they're going to put the decals somewhere else on the cars. But yeah, so who would have known that just because of the paint that they used, the glue wouldn't adhere to the actual car? So just a funny recall. I thought it was kind of funny, so I had to post about it. Let me see here. Sorry, I got to refresh my chat again. For some reason, it keeps stopping. I wonder if Dodge is going to get back into NASCAR again. Yes, Eric. Like I said, Dodge is going to get back into NASCAR by 2028. 2028 is the year that they're going to go back. That's what we're hearing. What's Sean say? Do you prefer the Dart over the Hornet or vice versa? Well, I think the Dart was actually a pretty good car. The problem with the Dart was there was a couple of shortcuts on it. It was rushed to market. That was an all-time record for that car to actually be sent to market. And if people think that car was a failure, it was not a failure. The reason why that car was produced was to get a 5% acquisition of the company or give Fiat a 5% acquisition of the company. And what they had to do was meet certain goals. This is back in 2009 when they came over to take over the company. They were given, basically the U.S. government and the Canadian government signed on board too, because they had to buy the company outright and they had to do certain parameters to basically ensure that they weren't just going to buy the company up and then close it up. So one of the things in order to get 5% per gallon car, and they rushed that car to production. And if you remember, originally there was rumors going around then, we can look back at these too. Back in, let's see here, 2011 Dodge Hornet. Back then, the Dart was rumored to be called the Hornet. Here's a Motor Trend article. And this is really funny because this is Chris Doan's pictures here. This car right here that Chris Doan shot, they actually built a diecast car of it. If you go, well, let me see. I know I'm getting sidetracked, but I find this stuff funny because as a spy photographer, I love seeing stuff like this. And I think you guys like knowing useless information too. Green light, Dodge, Dart, spy. Let's see here. Right here. They actually built, I think this was Brian Williams' picture actually, but anyways, they built a spy shot edition of the car. I think this was Brian Williams' shot that he actually took. So, but anyways, yes, they built a Dodge Dart spy edition. So anyways, at the time, everybody thought it was going to be called the Hornet. So, but there it is out testing in Auburn Hills. So, anyways, do I like the Dart? I think the Dart was fine. I thought the Dart was going to be even better for 2015 or 2016. I'm sorry. If you remember, they came up with a car. This was the Poison Dart concept. Let me see here. So Dodge went to SEMA and created the Poison Dart. And the Poison Dart was this car here. It was, come on, let's see if we want to enlarge. I don't know why it's not doing this. There we go. Anyways, this is the Poison Dart concept. This was basically the next, like the mid-cycle update of the Dart. They had a whole bunch of stuff coming for the Dart. In 2014, they introduced a Scat Pack stage kit for the Dart. Actually, I actually had a 2014 Dodge Charger that I did the Mopar Scat Pack stage 1 upgrade to. And that was kind of like a similar package for the Dart. But kind of like the Hornet, where they introduced the GLH and we still haven't seen it yet. The Scat Pack Dart was never produced. We got to see a bunch of videos on it and all this stuff, but they never did anything. But this was supposed to be the mid-cycle update, so it was supposed to look just like the Scat Pack, kind of. You know, like the Charger. I thought ultimately it was going to be a good change going through. They were starting to make performance models. I was kind of hoping they had teased a GLH. You can see the back of this car. This car actually looked really cool with the spoiler and stuff. This picture's from Allpar. But anyways, they had a whole bunch of cool stuff for the car planned. They did. And unfortunately, it just never got built. So you can see here's the back. It had like kind of a wicker bill spoiler that went down to the tail lamps. It had a ground effects kit, and you can see it had a actual ram air hood, which did make it into production, but the thing is the front end didn't. And this would have been such a cool design. We were hoping that there was going to be an SRT4 model. There was going to be a lot of potential with the car. It did have some build quality issues, just like anything else. You might remember, I think it was Edmunds that was doing a test, or it was Car and Driver or something. They were doing a test and the rear door handle fell off the car when they were opening the back door. There was just a lot of potential with the Dart that didn't come about because they were looking at, the problem is like back in 2009, just before the company went bankrupt, or basically got government assistance from going bankrupt, they started like basically shutting down plants. You might remember there was a Newark assembly plant that built the Dodge Durango. They closed that down. It also built the Chrysler Aspen as well. And then they had the St. Louis plant, which built Ram 1500s, and it also built the Dodge Caravan and Chrysler Town and Country on top of Windsor. So when they shut those plants down and they bulldozed them down and sold the properties off, you're limited to assembly plants. Like, there's not enough assembly plants. So when they looked at the end of the model life for the Patriot was coming, the Compass, the first generation Compass and Patriot were both coming to an end. very, very soon. For 2016 was their last year. And they needed to build the Cherokee somewhere else because at the time they were looking at building the new Wrangler for 2018, and they needed to take and redo Toledo, and then they were looking at building the Gladiator pickup. And at the time, car sales were going down, so they decided, hey, we're going to take and get rid of the Dart. Remember that big announcement? They just launched the 200 like 2 years prior, and they said, hey, we're going to cancel the Dart and the 200. We're not going to build basically small cars anymore. We're going to keep the Charger and 300 and Challenger, and that's it. So that was the big deciding factor, was the fact that they needed the plant to build, Cherokees. But ultimately, they could have built both. They really could have. The plant's big enough. They could have done it. But, yeah, it could have been a lot better. I mean, they had so many different concepts and ideas of what to do with the Dart. It wasn't... They didn't take advantage of it fast enough. And that's down to God's truth. So like here, this is a Mopar Insider's article here that I did. This is the Dart GLH. So we're getting the Hornet GLH, but this is one I actually wrote 2 years ago now, or almost 2 years, a year and a half ago. Anyways, this is the basically the Hornet GLH. Basically, it was like that Scat Pack kit I told you about, but it was just basically a GLH, form car. And this was nothing exciting. It just had a 2.4 in it. It was nothing big, but it had a manual transmission. There was a lot of possibilities with the thing. If they would have taken and put a better turbo engine in it, and they had the 1.4, the 1.4 fire engine was just put in there just so they could make that 40 miles per gallon. It actually did 41 miles per gallon, and that's what got them the 5 additional % of the company. And then right after that, it was actually the Dart Aero. You might remember that package, the Dart Aero. Right after they got that 41 miles per gallon certified, and they got the 5%, they did away with that package. And then they went to basically not high mileage cars. And they could have built something really cool if they would have waited and put the 1.3 from the Renegade in here with 180 horsepower. It would have been really cool. They could have done a lot of things with it. They just they could have taken advantage of the stuff, and they just didn't. So the Hornet, again, I think the powertrain's really good in it. The 1.3 with the RT and with the E-axle and stuff is really good to drive. It's fun. My wife, just to let you know, my wife has her daily driver's a 2020 Jeep Renegade Limited with the 1.3 in it. My wife is one of those people who doesn't take care of her car. It's always trashed. I'm the one who does all the maintenance on it, everything. She uses it like an appliance, but she wanted something fun. She had a Mustang convertible before that. I bought her a Mustang convertible, and she actually got T-boned in it. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy her a Jeep Renegade. It was cheap, and I knew if she beat it up or whatever, it could be fine. And then it has the removable sky panels on it, so you can remove the panels on it. But it's got a 1.3 turbo in it, and it's quick. It's not the fastest thing, but it gets up and goes. It's pretty peppy for the small vehicle. In the Hornet, with the E-axle, there's no turbo lag. It's automatic power. And you get 383 horsepower combined with the E-axle and the 1.3. So, I mean, it's got plenty of power. I wouldn't say it's the fastest thing, but for the segment, it's really cool. I'm sorry, not 183. What the hell has it got? 285 and then 383 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah. But anyways, it drives really good. Again, I just don't like the ergonomics of the interior. It's too Alfa Romeo. If it was more square, boxy-like, and had more American features, like the seats that could lower down, more the radio controls and stuff from typical Dodge vehicles, and it was made like a Dodge, I think it would be a lot better seller. And obviously, if the price was down lower, the price is just too expensive on it. Even with rebates and stuff, we're seeing them I'm seeing dealers right now put a base model GT at 26. I still think that's too much. They need to have front wheel drive only on these things and basically strip them out so they can get, down to $23,000, $24,000. I think people would start buying them more. It's just how it is. Let's see here. Didn't the Charger SXT have better gas mileage than the Dart? It did in certain packages, yes, but not the Dart Aero. The Dart Aero is actually a really efficient package. It was a 6-speed manual, 1.4 liter fire engine, basically the fire from the Abarth, the Abarth 500. So it wasn't that bad. The Dart was Marchionne's car. It wasn't a bad car. It was just rushed into production too quick. You know, they were trying to beat deadlines. Matter of fact, there's a great video with Sergio. And I'm a huge Sergio Marchionne fan. The only thing I can say bad about Sergio is the fact that Sergio, basically what happened with Sergio is he kind of got the brands, he separated the brands too much. What he did was Dodge had a mainstream brand that was like a mainstream portfolio that competed against Chevrolet and Ford. I understand why he did like separated the Ram brand to make it its own thing, because I mean, you look at their marketing, they do more agricultural stuff and that. But the problem was it was doing just fine as it is. They could have just labeled it as a Dodge truck brand instead of Ram, and it would have been fine. But they split up the things, and they basically didn't want any vehicles that crossed each other. That's why when the Avenger got canceled after 2014, we never seen an Avenger midsize come back. We only seen the 200. So they only wanted to have one vehicle for each segment, and they had 4 brands in the showroom. And it wasn't going to work that way. You can't have multiple mainstream brands. It's stupid. So Jeep was always the affordable off-roader. Now it's a premium American adventure brand. Dodge was always the mainstream brand that had a performance kind of attitude to it. Now it's a performance muscle car brand, which doesn't really have a muscle car now. It's got an electric vehicle, and it's got a crossover with a hybrid system, and it's got a Durango with a Hellcat. And then you have Chrysler, which has a minivan lineup and doesn't have anything anymore, and that was a blue-collar luxury brand. And they're looking at being a mainstream brand. And then, again, you got Ram, who's just a truck brand, but they do vans and professional stuff, like, you know, commercial vehicles. So I don't know. That's the only thing I hated about Sergio. But he did this really cool interview with 60 Minutes. You guys might have seen it. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna have to turn the volume down for a second. But anyways, he talked about the Dart, and he was like saying, I could afford one bad car, like one failure. And he was talking about how the Dart itself, he was at Belvedere right here. I'll show you. It's kind of funny. Give me a second here.
Stake in the brand new, slimmed down, debt-free Chrysler, plus a $6 billion high-interest loan from the U.S. Treasury, just for taking the auto company off the government's hands and running. He used the $6 billion to modernize Chrysler plants with state-of-the-art equipment to improve quality. Upgraded 16 existing models in just 18 months.
So you heard that he upgraded 16 models in 18 months. So you got to remember, Daimler sucked all the money out of the Chrysler, like all of it. Remember how crappy the interiors were in the late 2000s? Sergio came in, and actually what he did was he said, hey, we're going to spend $150 on each vehicle more than what we were before to give them better interiors. That $150 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you spread it across like every freaking car, it's a lot of money. So he ended up fixing the interiors, modernized the powertrains with the Pentastar V6 across the lineup, all this stuff.
Began integrating Chrysler and Fiat's operations.
Obviously, you saw something in Chrysler that you thought would fit well with Fiat.
Yeah, from a product standpoint, they were the other half of the coin. When you put the two together, we were going to come up with a product portfolio that was absolutely complete.
Chrysler's best assets were its Jeeps, minivans, and light trucks. Fiat's expertise was in small car technology and fuel-efficient engines, the very thing that Chrysler lacked. And next month, the first product of that collaboration will begin rolling off the assembly line in Belvedere, Illinois.
This car didn't even exist on paper in June of 2009.
It's the Dodge Dart, the first new compact sedan that Chrysler has produced in more than a decade. It's a slightly longer and wider version of the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, re-engineered and built in the USA. Base price just under $16,000 with 40 miles to the gallon.
How important is this car to Chrysler?
If you're a serious car maker and you can't make it into the segment, you're doomed.
It's got a little Italian.
Did you hear what he said? He goes, if you're a serious car maker and you can't make it in the segment, you're doomed. Little did everybody know, 2 years later, he's going to cancel the car.
Flair.
Yeah, just enough to make it interesting, and it avoids all the pitfalls of being Italian, yeah?
He goes, it has a little bit of Italian flair. He goes, yeah, it's enough to make it interesting, but not to have all the pitfalls of being Italian. So what's that say? Even Sergio knew the reputation of Italian vehicles. So, yeah, it was very interesting, this conversation. He actually talks about if it's a failure.
Mechanically, it's good.
Mechanically, it's outstanding.
Under Marchionne, the quality of both Fiat's and Chrysler products have improved dramatically according to Consumer Reports. Now Marchionne needs to convince the public.
We got it. We fixed it. This car has nothing to apologize to, for anything.
The darts produced at the Belvedere plant are not just for U.S. consumption. Marchionne plans to begin exporting them to more than 60 countries. When he took over Chrysler in 2009, this plant had 200 workers. By the end of the summer, there will be 4,500.
What do you think of American workers?
I think the world of American workers. What happened here at Chrysler would have been impossible without the commitment that they've shown. Absolutely impossible. When I was looking at this deal back in 2009, I snuck into Jefferson, a plant that now makes the Grand Cherokee. And I tell you, if I had any reservations about doing this deal, it was after I saw the state of that plant. And the people that fixed that plant are the guys on the shop floor.
Like most of Detroit's automakers,
Pretty interesting that he goes on and says that he loves American workers and all that stuff, and we never heard anything like that from Carlos Tavares. So, let's see here. Carlos makes all the cars and trucks fail. Let's see here. So keep the Fiats and Alfas. No, I wouldn't even say keep the Fiats and Alfas. They've been a failed experiment. The Alfa, see, the thing is, like the Giulia doesn't have to be here. The people that want a Giulia, you can easily make a smaller Stella Large vehicle. Why not build the Challenger smaller? You could easily overlap, where that car is. Let's see here. Sergio Marchionne said that it took lots of capital expenditures to build the Dodge Dart. The car was rushed into production as a 9-speed transmission wasn't ready. The Dart used a Hyundai 6-speed. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, they had to rush it in because they had deadlines to meet. They had to do it. If we go back to Google, if we go back and go 40 mile per gallon, we'll put Fiat, Chrysler. Let's see here. There should be a whole bunch of things. Fiat keeps gobbling up, right here, first article. Look at Fiat keeps gobbling up Chrysler. Ownership will go to 51% if a 40 mile per gallon car is delivered by the end of 2011. So that was the whole thing. They had to meet that deadline. They had to. So that's why that car was rushed. He even said it in the video that you just watched. That car didn't even exist on paper in January January of 2009. It usually takes 4 or 5 years for them to build a car, and they build it within like 2 years. So I mean, that was record time. So obviously there's going to be issues, but that's what they had to do. They had to take and get the majority of the company, and that's obviously the Dart played a huge factor. So when you hear people say, "Oh, the Dart was a failure," it was a major failure. The Dart was not a failure. It was not a failure. It actually, for how much money they invested in the car, it made it up because they got that extra percentage in ownership for the company. So, yes, they did it. That's the whole purpose of the Dart. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's what it was. Now, for the 200, the reason why the UF, the last generation 200, kind of failed, it actually sold really good. If you go, I love when people say, "Oh, the 200 was a failure." 200 was not a failure. If you go to Good Car, Bad Car, we do Chrysler 200 sales numbers, if we go and look at the numbers, now remember, it was the Sebring, right? Before it was the 200, but that car came out in 2014, and we didn't, I mean, it came out like what? I would say mid 2014. Hold on here. Let me see if this thing wants to load. Anyways, when we see the sales numbers, you're going to see that 2015 was its best year ever. Even better than the Sebring. It wasn't a failure at all. Come on, what the heck? Let's see here. Let's see. This is Chrysler sales figures. I want the 200. Let me see. Oh, they might have taken it off. There's one more link here. Let's try this. Sometimes they work. See, this link works. Okay. So if you look, this is when they renamed. This is when the M&M commercial came out and all that stuff. They renamed the 200. Basically, they're Sebring the 200. The first year, 86,000 units, right? 86,987 units. The imported from Detroit commercial comes out. Look, it goes from 86, 135,193 units the very next year, right? 135 drops a little bit in 2013, drops even more in 2014, 117,000. Still, those are pretty good numbers. That's almost as many minivans right there that they sold last year, 2024. So the 200 wasn't a failure. They're saying, you know, the Pacifica is a huge success for this Chrysler brand, and they sold a total of like 120, I think it was like 122,000 units, and 5,000 units of that was the 300 that were leftover 300s last year. This thing sold 117, and this was considered a failure? No. Here's the new generation, the UF, the last generation. Look at 177,889. Look at massive. That was a record-breaking year for them. Now, the weird thing is, if you look the next year, 62,000. Holy crap, that's a big drop-off. Well, in 1 year, right and after 2015, there was a bunch of things going on with the 200. The first thing is, one of the reasons why it didn't do good was they put all this money in development of that car. They took and made it had self-parking. It had a V6 and a 4-cylinder engine, had all-wheel drive. It had a luxury model. I mean, it had like all these like trim levels and all this like complex, you know, like I said, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, V6, 4-cylinder. It wasn't like the Honda lineup, which was stuck to with front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder, optional V6. It didn't self-park itself. It was just a appliance car. When you build a mid-size car, that's what people are looking for. The cheap thing to get to point A, you know, to point B, and do good gas mileage. That's what those cars are made for. It's all about in that class. It's all about, you know, reliability and affordability. So what they did was they put all this money into the car to do all this stuff, and they thought, hey, everyone's going to buy one of the 200Ss or 200Cs that's going to be fully loaded, and they didn't. Everybody bought the touring model, the base model car. And that's what kind of like hurt its sales, because it was, when you look at it on paper, it did look like a failure because they weren't making the money back on it. So then Sergio came out and he basically said, this was crazy. I was kind of upset when he said this. Sergio basically comes out and says, hey, the problem why people don't like the car is the headroom in the back is too low. The roof line is too sloped. We copied Hyundai. He said that the design studio copied Hyundai. The Sonata, and like, look at this is an article from Jalopnik. Sergio Marchionne is chopping dicks over the Chrysler 200. The Chrysler 200's backseat isn't exactly easy to get in and out of. Part of that is because it was made by Chrysler, which has a track record of questionable decisions, but the real reason is because the entry point was copied by dummies from the Hyundai Sonata, according to Fiat Chrysler CEO Sergio Marchionne. So this is an original quote. Look at the Hyundai, which we copied. Presumably the Sonata has the same problems, Marchionne admitted. We didn't copy the car. We copied the entry point to the rear seat. Dummies, I acknowledge it. Some people from design left some of their private parts on the table after we came up with that determination. But I think we're learning from this process. That's an actual quote. That's an actual quote. And he actually blamed the car. He goes, the 200 failed because somebody thought the rear seat entry point inside the 200, which is our fault. By the way, it's not up to snuff. So he comes out and says, yeah, we copied the another car. And then right after that, they make the announcement that they're cutting small cars. And when you do that, and you tell everybody, hey, we're not going to build the car that we just produced. It's only been out for a year. We're ending it. Nobody wants to buy a car that's being cut. Nobody wants to buy it unless it's like a special edition car, like obviously like the Charger and stuff. People wanted to buy it. The 300 people wanted to buy it. If you have a mainstream car and you say, hey, we're going to kill it off, do you think you want to buy a car that's going to be like, ending production? No. So sales flopped after that. He said right here, by the end of the first quarter of 2017, we're going to cancel the car because they needed the plant to build Ram 1500 pickups. So here's the really funny part. The last, let's see here, last Chrysler 200 to be built. It was built in January, I think, or in December 2nd, 2016. And let me see, there's a picture of it somewhere. I used to have pictures because one of my buddies worked at the plant at the time, and he actually took pictures of it rolling off the line. But if you, let me see if I can find it real quick. I know it's on here. I know it's on here. The very last one. Let me see. Hold on here. There's an article somewhere on it. I know it is. Let me see. Last 200. I'll have to find it. But anyways, it's a silver 200 touring. Let me see here. 2016 Chrysler 200 built at Shap. Last one. I want to see if I can, right here. Here we go. Detroit News. There you go. It doesn't have fog lights. It's all stripped out. They said at 2015 moves down the line, but you can see it's the very, well, there's a picture I had of it like from above when it was going down the cradle. There's more pictures of it somewhere. Anyways, it was the very last one was a stripped out base model car. So the whole point was people bought all the base models, but they didn't buy the ones that were actually like huge profit makers for them. Instead, they relied on those big money-making cars, and they just didn't do it. People want cheap cars. That's why we're seeing the Dodge Attitude down in Mexico, the Chinese-built sedan that's down there. It's actually doing really, really good. I've done a whole bunch of articles on it. People have had a lot of feedback. This car starts at $23,000 down there. 23,000 American dollars. And tops out, this one is the GT model. This is the top of the line one. This is $28,000. It has a 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, about 180 horsepower, nothing, to brag about. It's, like I said before in videos, it's a car that it's not best in class, but it does everything good, like everything well. And it's affordable. It's an appliance. People like it. It's sporty looking. The interior looks amazing. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that Dodge needs to go back and build here. It's got nice touch screens. Look at the interior. It looks very sporty. This red interior looks awesome. Look at quad tip exhaust, nice spoiler, aggressive looking car. And this is the number one selling Dodge in Mexico. Ever since this thing made its debut, it's the number one selling Dodge because it's affordable. So, let's see here. The Chrysler 200 was well engineered. Let's see here. That's a lot more units sold than Hornets. Yeah, it is. See, the 200 wasn't a bad... On paper, the 200 was a good car. It wasn't until Sergio started saying stuff about it, and then they canceled the whole car program, that it technically it failed. It technically didn't fail. It was a success right out the gate. The problem is, are you going to go out and buy something that is going to end production within a couple of months. You're not. Let's see here. I concur with you. All right, neither were the bee's knees, but if I had to choose one, it would be Sergio Marchionne. He wasn't that great either. Sergio had a lot of issues, and I was talking about this in the last live stream. A lot of people don't know this, but Sergio, if he was alive, he would have probably been indicted on federal corruption charges. The UAW, there was a huge fraud thing going around about embezzlement and stuff, and what they found out was GM actually sued Fiat Chrysler and the UAW. Because there was, hold on here, I'll show you. There was, it's better if I show you. Hold on here. Bribery case. So anyways, Sergio, right here, this is from the Detroit Free Press. Corruption charges Marchionne's FCA legacy. Marchionne's legacy at Fiat Chrysler is moving from weighty to crushing. The sweeping allegations contained in General Motors' racketeering lawsuit against the Italian-American automaker filed Wednesday depict manipulative mastermind who led the remains of the old Chrysler group from bankruptcy. Within weeks, the lawsuit and court records show that the new company moved to corrupt the bargaining process with cash, gifts, and favorable contracts, essentially underwritten by American taxpayers. Marchionne was accused of enlisting former UAW President Dennis Williams, his longtime friend, in one of several abortive attempts to engineer a merger with Detroit's largest automaker. So what happened was Sergio kept going around saying about how he wanted to merger with GM. And at the time he kept saying like he wanted to merger with GM, and it was kind of hilarious. I wonder if we can probably see some of these videos. Let me see if I can see. Here we go. Let's see here. Let's see if we can pull this up real quick.
Today's actually a really exciting day.
Hold on here. We're going to wait for this commercial to go through. But this is pretty funny because he goes through constantly. He's talking about merging with GM.
And the CEO of Fiat Chrysler is planning on retiring in 2 years. He's got a lot of lofty goals, a lot of things that he wants to accomplish before he does. And right here, the new portal is the very first autonomous vehicle from Fiat Chrysler. It puts him on the track to getting to where it is he needs to go. But today, at the press conference, he hinted that they're still open to a partner that might help them get there.
Great award. We deserved it too.
Even for a man of confidence, rejection stings. It's no secret that you all have been trying to look for a merger, and I know you.
I was, yes.
You were, and you've said
and I
in
was
the past.
rebuffed.
And you were rebuffed.
Yes.
I know, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. I've gotten over it.
But since General Motors turned down Fiat Chrysler's proposal for a merger, CEO Sergio Marchionne says he's out of the dating game.
Nobody wanted to dance. The music stopped. We're chasing no one. We're done.
At today's press conference, I asked him if he's open to being pursued by other partners, other than automakers. For their new concept car, the Portal, they partnered with Google.
I think they can buy FCA out of petty cash.
His answer is yes. He says he thinks Google and other tech companies have good reason to want FCA, and he's open to being pursued by anyone who can help him meet his lofty profit goals for 2018.
So the whole point was you heard about how he got shut down by GM. So what he did was he paid different UAW officials during the bargaining, when they do their agreements and they make their amendments for the next contract. He was making them so the GM guys would do worse contracts for GM. And that GM would basically be hard up for money so he could come in and do a hostile takeover of General Motors. Yes, he wanted to do a hostile takeover of GM. So Sergio was kind of conniving in that way, and he basically had this idea that he was going to basically take over General Motors with a hostile takeover. So after he passed away, it was kind of like a shock that he passed away. They sued. And you might remember, this is just a few years ago. it says here, it says left behind a trail of union officials and former FCA executives caught up in a widening scandal that so far has produced 10 convictions charges against 13 and implicated Marchionne, Williams, and UAW President Gary Jones in the years-long federal investigation to union corruption. FCA under Marchionne is accused of being a clear sponsor of pervasive wrongdoing, paying millions of dollars in bribes to obtain benefits, concessions, and advantages in labor agreements over the past decade, weakening GM's competitive position in an effort to engineer a merger of the two companies. So not a lot of people know that whole story because they tend to forget. But yes, Sergio was very smart on this stuff. The only problem was, if he was alive, he would have been busted. He would have probably done some jail time. So yeah, that's the only thing I really, that and the separation of the brands. But Sergio did a lot for the company. Let's see here. Hold on here. I got to refresh my screen again. Let me see. Yeah, see, I just refreshed my screen. I got a whole bunch of things. Let's see here. I was looking around and seeing plenty of times GM said no to the merger, but Sergio kept trying in the background. Yeah, that's because he was kind of handling these UAW contracts with bribery and cash and gifts, vacations, like $1,000 watches. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Let's see here. Thank God we didn't go that route. I love that Italian DNA. Great story. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about because they tend to forget. This was back in 2020. This is 5 years ago. and people tend to forget because, obviously he's gone, but a lot of people went to jail and they're still digging through stuff. But GM sued the hell out of FCA and they're still being sued by them. There's several lawsuits that are going to be ongoing for the next few years. They've kind of settled up on a few of them, but there's still a few out there. So, yeah, the story goes on. So, but it's 1:00 here in the morning. I'm going to go to bed. Actually, I got to write a couple articles for the morning. But, you remember that story, Eric? Yeah. So, I'm glad you guys got to spend some time with me tonight. We talked about the Jeeps. Oh, I didn't even talk about the Compass. But you guys can go on and I talked about the Cherokee. I talked about the Grand Cherokee. You can watch the beginning of the video. If you go on Mopar Insiders, I got a whole bunch of spy images of the new Compass that's coming out actually in a couple weeks. It's going to make its debut on the 5th of April. 5th or 6th? 5th, I believe. So, yeah, you can go on Mopar Insiders and check out the photos right here. This is a limited 4xe model. And I did a video like a couple days ago on the channel breaking down everything about this model and what we know about it and the powertrain strategies for North America and Europe, because this is basically the biggest global vehicle for Jeep, because the Compass is sold in more markets than any other Jeep out there. So, yeah. There's a lot of info that I posted about it. The battery range, what kind of battery it's going to have, what kind of models Europe's going to get. We've had our model kind of pushed back from the first quarter of 2026 to basically the third quarter of 2026 because Brampton's going through some changes because they're actually changing up the powertrain strategy for this vehicle. So go on there, watch that video if you really want to know more about the Compass. And you can see I actually zoom in and go in depth on the actual vehicle and show you some other spy photos and stuff too. So anyways, you guys have a good night and I'll see you guys later. And thanks for joining me tonight. It was a lot of fun. I kind of needed it after having a depressing day of being at a funeral all day. So what did Devin say? Let's see here. They just need the new sheet metal for that Hornet. The platform is fine. I totally agree. I think the platform's great. I think the powertrain's great. It needs all new interior, all new exterior. Butter. I'll send you a jailbreak list I got updated. Awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. The reason why I needed that is there's one going across the Barrett Jackson auction that I did an article for. and I need the numbers on it, but I'm also waiting for Aaron Cook, who's one of my guys that's over at Barrett Jackson, to send me some photos without the Barrett Jackson logo in for that car. So there's a really cool 2023 Dodge, basically a Dodge Challenger SRT Super Stock in Sublime that's going across the auction block in the next couple of days. So hopefully Aaron sends me those photos. So anyways, you guys have a good night, and I will see you probably, I don't know, I'm going to be going to a car event this weekend with the 300. There's a place that's kind of near me. They actually have a YouTube channel, Classic Motor Cars, I think it is, or something like that. I can't remember what it is. Hold on here. I'll tell you what it is. It is, Chase Classic Motors. My dad actually found them because we were looking at, hold on here. They are having their 3rd annual car show, or open house this week, right here. So I will be there. I will be at their place this weekend. They're near Hall Road, M53, if you guys are familiar, in Clinton Township, Michigan. They're having a 3rd anniversary open house cars and coffee event. They're going to be, what's it? It starts at 10 and goes to 4 p.m. It's on Hemi Day. That's kind of cool. They're going to have coffee, snacks for all attendants, restrooms available, vintage, this is what I like, vintage emergency vehicles on display, and we're going to be taking the 300 there. And the reason why we found them was, if you know anything about Chrysler 300s in the, Cordobas and all that, thermal quad carburetors. So anyways, we found them on this video, and they were working on a 300 just like ours. So we're taking it up there. We're going to see what they can do with ours and tune it a little bit better, because these guys look like they're pros with thermal quads. So it's going to be a very fun weekend. I'm going to be doing some live streaming for the channel on, on the 26th. So that is Saturday. See, every day is running together this week. So Saturday, I'm going to be up there with the 300. Our car looks identical to this one. And, we'll be up. Ours actually has pinstriping. Ours is more original and more. Actually, I think ours is a little cleaner than that. But anyways, we're gonna be up there hanging out. So if you guys come up there, you'll see the 300. They got a whole bunch of Mopars. Again, it's gonna be a fun time. So it doesn't cost anything. That's a kind of cool thing. So it's at Morelli Drive, Clinton Township. If you go on to Facebook and type in 3rd anniversary open house cars and coffee for this guy, these two guys, you'll be able to find the whole event page. So it's Chase Classic Motors. So make sure to check out their YouTube channel too. So, all right, I will take and see you guys later.